Chapter 491. Ha 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 ha. Jimo's body twisted as he rolled out, laughing. You're going to be the sister-in-law. Great, we're still waiting to call you sister-in-law. Dong Wushong also couldn't help laughing. Mo Qing Wu looked at the four people who came out from the left and right, stunned. Suddenly, her face and ears turned red. She was extremely shy as she stammered, you, Luo Ku Di pinched his nose and twisted his waist. Ayo. I remember you said that you want me to be your future wife. Then I'll be the sister-in-law. Okay. You guys. Annoying. Mo Qing Wu was instantly embarrassed. She suddenly lowered her head and pressed it against Chu Yang's back. Her little face was burning. Her two legs hung in front of Chu Yang's chest, kicking with all her strength. She wouldn't raise her head no matter what. It's okay. Chu Yang smiled as he comforted her. Mo Qing Wu snorted. She was even more embarrassed. Ha ha ha. Jiu Duxing and the others were laughing wantonly. They were laughing so hard that they were spitting out rice. You guys are still laughing. Eavesdropping on others. You guys are still laughing. Mo Qing Wu kicked her legs angrily. Her muffled voice came from Chu Yang's back. Cough cough, stop laughing. Chu Yang had no choice but to use his authority as the boss. What's so funny? But such a little girl actually wants to be our sister-in-law. Jimo cried out. His whole body was twitching, almost cramping. After a long time, under Chu Yang's suppression, they finally stopped laughing one by one. It was just that they were all suppressing it, but their bodies were still trembling. It's okay, stop laughing. Chu Yang held back his laughter and patted Mo Qing Wu's hand. Mo Qing Wu carefully peeked out from Chu Yang's back. She saw a few twisted faces trying to hold back their laughter. She couldn't help but pout and say angrily, still say you're not laughing. She shrank back again. Chu Yang coaxed her for a long time before she finally calmed down. Her face was red as she lowered her head, looking helpless. Okay, they dare to laugh at you. When you really become my sister-in-law, you'll teach them a lesson. Chu Yang gave an empty promise. Yes. Mo Qing Wu nodded vigorously. Then, she pouted and said angrily, you guys, just wait and see. Jimo grinned. He wanted to laugh again, but he was stopped by Jiu Duxing. You're still laughing. You idiot. The enemy is coming. The people of the OU clan had indeed arrived soon. The 3 Emperor-level experts and 30 King-level experts started to hasten on their journey as soon as they received the news. Moreover, a King-level expert was sent to chase after the 3 people of the Jiu clan who had escaped. However, it wasn't easy to reach the chill wind forest for hundreds of kilometers. The experts of the OU clan finally arrived at the chill wind forest when the sun shone brightly in the morning. They saw the region in front of them that was filled with evil spirits and monsters. So, everyone wrinkled their brows. What about old 8 and old 9? Where did he go? The second elder frowned. Along the way, there was no news from the 8th elder and the 1st elder, which made everyone puzzled. The 3rd elder said, it's possible that the 2 of them have already entered the chill wind forest. Something can't have happened, right? The 4th elder said in an uncertain manner. Ha ha. The 2nd elder calmly smiled and said, old 4th, do you think that 20 king-level experts can kill an emperor-level expert? It's possible if 20 king-level experts go all out, and the emperor-level experts fight to the death. The 4th elder was startled and said. What about those 2? One of them is a 2nd-grade emperor-level expert. A trace of disapproval flashed through the 2nd elder's eyes. That's absolutely impossible, the 4th elder replied. Then, what are you still doubting? The 2nd elder snorted. He then waved his hand and said, go in. There's a vast expanse of open ground outside the chill wind forest. There's nowhere to hide. Our people are monitoring that place. But, they haven't sent any news. This means that those little bastards are still in the chill wind forest. There's no time to lose since this is the case. We'll kill our way in. I believe that old 8th and old 4th are also waiting anxiously. He smiled cruelly and said, kill them as soon as you see them. Don't leave them alive. We're only responsible for bringing those things back. Yes. Divide into 3 teams. You and I will lead 8 people each. We'll search in 3 directions. Let out a long whistle if you find anything. The second elder made a prompt decision and said, advance in a fan-shaped manner. Then, the distance between each team must not exceed 1,000 feet. And, the distance between people must not exceed 100 feet. Yes. There's no time to lose. Let's move out immediately. The second elder waved his hand. 27 people quietly entered the chill wind forest. There are traces of a fight here. They had just entered the forest when they had discovered something. Look at this. The fight must have been very fierce. There's a lot of bloodstains. This shows that the fight was extremely fast. The fight must have been settled in a very short time. The second elder lowered his head and looked carefully. There's a sword fragment here. It's been cleaned up. But it can still be seen. He pinched his hand in the air, and a fragment was sucked into his hand. He carefully looked at it and said, this fragment has cloud patterns. Moreover, it's sparkling with light. This shows that this sword was mixed with star steel. Such a sword is of divine quality. So, how could it be broken? He was startled by his own words. Wasn't Eighth Brother's sword mixed with star steel? The third elder and the fourth elder's complexion changed as they thought of this. The 3 of them started to look around. And, they slowly found a few small fragments. Their complexions became increasingly unsightly. These fragments are faintly exuding black smoke. This can only happen if they're mixed with nightmare steel. This is Old Brother's sword. The second elder's complexion became more and more dignified. Both of their swords were broken here. So, it shows that they were the ones who fought here. Then, whose blood is this? The third elder's face was full of fear. Second brother had said that the fight should have been very short. But, their swords were broken. So, the fourth elder spoke until here. He looked at the second elder and the third elder, and saw the shock in each other's eyes. There was only one possibility: someone had launched a surprise attack here. And, the swords of the 8th elder and the 4th elder had been broken, and they had died. There's a trace here. Someone shouted. There's also a trace here. The 3 of them looked left and right. And, their complexions sank like water. There were traces of a person who had stepped on the ground and borrowed the force to fly. And, that was the kind of trace that could be left behind. This should have been a premeditated sneak attack, judging from the location of the battlefield. It's not enough to attack these 2 sides. The strongest person on the opposite side must have attacked them head-on, and forced them to come back. Then, the people on both sides would have had the opportunity to attack. And, the person on the opposite side must have had a cultivation that wasn't weaker than those 2. The second elder clenched his teeth and bitterly said, in other words, there's an emperor-level expert on the opposite side in this chill wind forest. He's lying in ambush. And, 8th elder should have suffered a big loss. In fact, he might have already died. Everyone's complexion changed. Let's go in first. Immediately warn us if you find the existence of this expert. The 3 of us must kill this bastard in one go. Otherwise, it's inevitable that we'll suffer heavy casualties today, the second elder said. Why should we split up since the opposite side has such a person? The fourth elder asked, why don't we go in together? Idiot. Why would the opposite side launch a sneak attack if they had the strength to kill us in one fell swoop? This shows that they can only deal with 1 or 2 people even if they launch a sneak attack. So, their assurance isn't big either. Do you think that they'll dare to come out if the 3 of us are together? The second elder said in a resentful tone, we must lure them out first. So, that's how it is, the fourth elder nodded. Then, the 3 teams entered the chill wind forest in accordance with their prior agreement, and slowly moved forward. Everyone was very cautious now. They had completely lost the confidence they had had when they had first arrived. Even a team composed of such experts felt somewhat jittery at the slightest sound. They've come in, the sword spirit said in Chu Yang's mind. How many people? Chu Yang asked in his mind. 27 people. 1 3rd-grade Emperor-level expert, 2 2nd-grade Emperor-level experts, 7 King-level experts, and the rest are between 4th and 5th-grade King-level experts. They're divided into 3 teams. Each team is led by an emperor-level expert. The leftmost team is a bit stronger, the sword spirit cautiously calculated. The sword spirit suddenly felt somewhat aggrieved as he said this. Emperor-level expert? Motherfucker, when did I start calling this bunch of trash emperor? The OU clan is really willing to spend a lot of money. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. It can be said that they've dispatched such a big force to deal with us. The misleading formation at the entrance should have aroused their vigilance. They should have thought that there's an expert inside. Therefore, they won't dare to come in so arrogantly. They're being very cautious, the sword spirit said in a somewhat amused manner. Well, our odds of success are very big as long as they don't swarm us without any scruples. Chu Yang nodded, and exposed a sinister smile on his face. How's the preparation? Chu Yang turned his head, and asked. Almost done. Jiu Du Xing seemed to have asked something. Then, he replied, only Luo Ku Di's trap isn't ready yet. But, it'll be ready soon. Good, Chu Yang said in a low voice, they've already come in. Jiu Du Xing nodded, and silently retreated. On the other side, Dong Wu Shong and Ji Mo looked at each other from afar. They could only see each other's flickering eyes in this dense and gloomy place. The murderous intention in their hearts was blazing. The OU clan is purely using the method of encirclement to deal with us this time. But, they won't be able to imagine that the prey in their eyes has turned into the hunter, and, they themselves have become the real prey. And, they're moving towards the carefully arranged trap of the hunter. Chapter 492. This is a dusky forest. The reason why it is called the chill wind forest is because there are 2 big mountains on the left and the right. These mountains block the flow of wind from the east and the west. And, there is a mountain pass in front of us. The mountain pass is very narrow. So, even a very small wind will make a very loud sound when it blows through this mountain pass. And, the most amazing thing about this forest is that there is a towering ironwood forest from the mountain pass to here. The sound of the wind passing through this ironwood forest changes into the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves as the sharp branches of the ironwood forest rustled in the wind. And, someone must have taken advantage of this natural condition to draw underground water from the ground of this forest. Moreover, it's a hot spring. And, the water vapor evaporates. But, it can't disperse. So, it can only be digested in this forest. And, this dense forest has been formed over the years. And, the formation is playing a decisive role in this. Chu Yang had said this when he had been arranging the strategy. His words were even more detailed than those of the original residents of the 3 days. **** Baidu Search Network High Quality Update ****. This had made Jiu Du Xing and the others somewhat embarrassed. They also found it somewhat unimaginable. Big Brother has just arrived. So, how can he be more clear about these places than I am? And, these are our advantageous conditions. Even if these conditions are disadvantageous to us, they can be advantageous as long as we make good use of them. Because, what's disadvantageous to us is also disadvantageous to the enemy. We must remember these words under any circumstances. Chu Yang insipidly said. He was using all the time he had to instill all the theories he knew into his brothers. Many of these theories were commonplace. But, Chu Yang still had to say them. And, Jiu Du Xing and the others were also listening very seriously. Because, some words spoken by family members and teachers were far less useful than those spoken by trusted people. This was a common psychological state of people. For example, one would have regretted not having enough knowledge when they were very young. But, it would have been decades later. And, they would have experienced setbacks. Then, they would have heard these words from other people's mouths. And, their hearts would have been touched at that moment. Then, they would have realized the true meaning of these words, but, it would have been decades too late by that time. The most effective way to deal with the people of the OU clan in such an environment is to ambush and use poison, Chu Yang calmly said. At present, the traps we've arranged are. Wait. Jimo raised his hand. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he asked, use poison? Using poison against the OU clan? Boss, what do you think? They are experts in using poisons. Well, the OU clan wouldn't have thought of it since even you couldn't think of it. Chu Yang sneered. They've been famous for their poison for a long time. They've always been conceited. Therefore, if others use poison to deal with them, they'll be more defenseless than ordinary people. It's just that, what kind of poison can prevent them from discovering it? That's something worth pondering over. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up. He increasingly felt that Chu Yang's every step wasn't too brilliant, but he was walking in a blind spot that no one would have thought of. Just this point alone was enough to put him in an invincible position. Perhaps, no one had thought of using poison to deal with the OU clan in the past 3 days. However, he was constantly pondering in his heart. What poison should I use to deal with the OU clan? Using ordinary poisons would only be a joke. It had to be a poison that they couldn't detect. Furthermore, it had to be done in an ingenious manner. There's still 700 to 800 pounds of the poisonous flood dragon's meat left. Sword Spirit said in his mind, I can refine the poison, but this poison is too overbearing. I'm afraid that the poisoned part of this place will become a poisonous area for a long time once it's used. It's hard to avoid harming innocent people. Chu Yang's eyes lit up as he said, this isn't a problem. I can smear it on my sword and saber. It's only limited to these 2 parts. I just need to clean them up after killing the enemy. However, some of the original traps will be wasted in this way. It's a pity. Let's do it this way. We'll still use the traps. But, we'll set up a warning sign in the poisonous area after we use it. This will warn the future people that this place is poisonous. Sword Spirit remained silent for a moment. Then, he said, this decision is up to you. The 3 heavens are a big Jianghu. How many people are innocent in Jianghu? Anyone who can enter the chill wind forest isn't a good person. There's nothing wrong with killing them. Chu Yang nodded and said, since that's the case, it's settled then. Chu Yang didn't feel anything about this. It was just as Sword Spirit had said, how many people were innocent in Jianghu? The weak were prey to the strong in the 3 heavens. Which of the people who could come here didn't have a blood debt? Chu Yang had always been decisive when it came to killing. So, he promptly made a decision. At this time, a message came that Luo Kudi was ready. Sword Spirit promptly reminded him that the OU clan's people weren't far away. Chu Yang immediately arranged, Jimo, let's start. Jimo let out a strange cry, don't worry. Awu tilde dog aunt. Everyone laughed. The OU clan's people spread out in a big circle. The 3 elders were in the middle of their respective teams. They formed a big arc, and slowly advanced inside. The more they went inside, the more gloomy and damp they felt. It was broad daylight. But, the clouds and mist were curling up. So, their line of sight was extremely unclear. Their eyes were useless even if they were 20 or 30 feet away from them. Therefore, everyone was on high alert. They didn't dare to be careless. They had been going inside for half an hour. Suddenly, a faint sound of fighting was heard from afar. Are there people fighting here? The second elder and the others were startled. They quickly went towards the place where the sound was coming from. The more they went forward, the more they felt that the fight was intense. The second elder raised his white eyebrows and said in a deep and low voice, many people are besieging one person. The others looked at each other. Then, they went forward even more cautiously. Who's fighting? Is it the person we're chasing to kill? It would be great if that's the case. A faint sound of cursing was heard. Kill this monster. Quickly. The OU clan's people will soon catch up with us. Everyone, let's attack together. Shoulder to shoulder. The second elder smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. His eyes exposed a cruel murderous intention. Juniors, we've finally caught up with you. But, who's fighting with them? Suddenly, a burst of angry and anxious mumbling sound was heard. It seemed that the speaker was extremely angry. However, he was also extremely sullen. What's he talking about? An expert of the OU clan tilted his ears in puzzlement. But, he couldn't hear anything clearly. He wasn't the only one. All the people of the OU clan were also confused. They couldn't hear what was being said. Well, They couldn't understand what was being said. After taking a few more steps, he suddenly heard the sound of metal clashing. A strange voice filled with extreme anger could be faintly heard. Dog of dog. Pitter-patter. Sister-in-law's hometown. Wah, dog aunt. The second elder looked around in confusion, and found that everyone had a confused look on their faces. Could it be that his cursing someone, an expert of the OU clan, cautiously guessed? Listening to his tone, it's definitely not something good. Another person frowned and said, but what is he talking about? How come I've never heard anyone talk like that before? At this moment, there was another explosion, and the voice was filled with rage. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Waste oil and rice. Woolly woolly woola woola howl. Whip gulu mommy oiny big wind monkey. Wah, dog aunt. Wah, dog aunt. His words are very strange. An expert of the OU clan scratched his head. I can't understand a word of it. The other expert also had a depressed look on his face. His eyes were wide open like a duck listening to thunder. The second elder, the third elder, and the fourth elder were experienced and knowledgeable. But they also couldn't understand a word of it. However, they heard the voice of this person become more and more hurried. And the fight also became more and more intense. Suddenly, a scream was heard. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Dog aunt. Then, a mumbling sound of cursing was heard. Then, another scream was heard. The situation of the fight seemed to have shifted to the left. It seemed that the person was trying to break out of the encirclement. But it then shifted to the right. This person is injured, the second elder said with certainty. The second elder is very wise. He's able to accurately judge the situation of the fight by relying on such a small clue. He's truly a godlike person. An expert on the side said with a face full of admiration. The second elder stroked his beard and nodded cheerfully. Everyone looked at that guy with contempt. Motherfucker, this guy is screaming so miserably. He must have been injured. Anyone with a bit of brain would know that. How is this wise? If you were in his place, would you scream so miserably in your normal state? Even if you want to flatter someone, you can't do it like this. It's truly disdainful. Surround him. Don't make any noise. The second elder made a prompt decision, and waved his hand to order. His voice hadn't faded away when the fourth elder's people had already started to surround him. They had just flown over, and hadn't had time to attack when they saw the thick fog in front of them shake. Then, a person's figure fell out in a sorry state. He flew hundreds of feet high in the air, and fell to the ground. Then, he stood up like a carp, but fell down again. He was cursing loudly. Way, 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 sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Wah, dog aunt. Dog aunt. Everyone saw this, and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They saw that this person's body was thin, and his stature wasn't tall. But he had a strange appearance. His hair had 5 colors, and there was a strange horn in the middle of his hair. His nose was rolled up, and one of his eyes was red, and the other was blue. The flesh on his body was overturned, and it was too horrible to look at. Blood was flowing out from countless places. The strangest and most surprising thing was that the blood flowing out of this guy's body was sparkling like stars. Moreover, there was a golden star mark on his forehead. It was very eye-catching. His from the Star Clan of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The second elder was worthy of being called experienced and knowledgeable. He had recognized him from afar. Everyone exclaimed in admiration. The second elder is erudite and knowledgeable. However, the second elder couldn't help but be full of doubts. No wonder we couldn't understand what he was saying. He's from the Star Clan of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. But why are the people of the 3 Stars Divine Clan here? That strange man was lying on the ground. He raised his head, and saw that so many people had surrounded him. His eyes emitted a panic-stricken light, and he kept crawling backwards. He said in a sorry state, Dog aunt. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Damn, I'm sick of it. Dog aunt. Chapter 493. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This is the dialect of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. Who can understand it? They were about to speak when they saw the miserable appearance of this guy. But they heard a burst of movement in the dense fog. Everyone, run. The people of the OU clan have arrived. Swish, 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 swish. The second elder and the third elder angrily rebuked and chased after them. But there was nothing left. They only saw a big bloodstain on the ground. Asterisk asterisk Baidu search network high quality update asterisk asterisk who are you? Are you from the 3 Stars Divine Clan? Are you? The fourth elder frowned as he looked at this strange guy who had fallen on the ground. He wanted to go forward and touch him. How can this guy grow into such a strange shape? Even if he's from the 3 Stars Divine Clan, he looks a bit shabby. Wow. Are you tired of it? Wow. Are you tired of it? Dog aunt. Dog aunt. This guy screamed in horror. It was obvious that the elders couldn't understand what he was saying. But he couldn't understand what the elders were saying either. The duck listens to thunder and the fog is evil. The fourth elder and the few people beside him looked at each other in dismay. There's a language barrier. What should we do? They listened to this guy screaming himself hoarse in fright. But they couldn't get anything out of him. Then, a king-level expert of the OU clan volunteered to come forward. This guy had a younger brother who was mute. It was said that he was very good at making gestures. Everyone felt relieved. How could we forget about this? Now, the interpreter has arrived. This king-level expert walked in front of this monster and made a posture of beating him up. Then, he made an injured appearance. He then pointed in the direction where Chu Yang and the others had fled, and asked, "Her?" The eyes of this monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan suddenly lit up. He stood up, and made a posture of beating someone up. Then, he made a posture of sneak attack. He then said with infinite indignation, wow. Are you tired of it? Howl. Dog aunt. That expert nodded in affirmation. He made a sympathetic and understanding expression. Then, he made an angry gesture, and made a posture of chasing and attacking. He patted his chest, and asked with a posture of courage, "Her? You mean? I'll help you take revenge. Is that okay?" This 3 Stars Divine Clan monster's spirit was immediately roused. He drew a circle with his hand, encircling all the people in front of him. He drew a large area, and then, with one foot in front and the other behind, he hopped 2 steps on the spot in a chasing posture. He then asked in high spirits, "Wow, are you tired of it?" Aha. That expert of the OU clan nodded in affirmation. He thought to himself, "This is great. With this guy leading the way, we can immediately find Chu Yang's group." Awu tilde dog aunt. This monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan immediately jumped up in excitement. But then, he groaned and looked at the wounds on his body with a distressed expression. He raised his head to look at the fourth elder and the others. Then, he spread out his hands. His facial features squeezed together in pain. Wow. Dog aunt. What he means is that he's in a lot of pain and has no strength left. This expert of the OU clan looked at the fourth elder in a very clear manner. He then confidently translated, "This wow means pain" in the 3 Stars Divine Clan's language. The fourth elder looked at this guy's tattered body, and wrinkled his brows. "I didn't bring much medicine with me. And, I reckon that this guy will use up more than half of it. Do I have to waste it on him?" That monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan started to tremble while he was hesitating. He then cried out in despair, "Wow! War! War! War!" Then, he slowly fell to the ground, and his hands and feet began to twitch. "Treat his injuries," the fourth elder looked at him in disgust and shouted. Therefore, everyone stepped forward, and applied medicine to the wounds on this guy's body. This guy was crying wow and wow. His face was wrinkled, and his hands were restless. He politely shook hands with everyone who came to apply medicine to him. He would cry wow and wow if one didn't shake hands with him. The 4 king-level experts had no choice but to pinch their noses and shake hands with him. Then, the king-level expert who acted as a translator mobilized his spirit power, and treated his internal injuries. Only then did he stand up. With a bitter expression on his face, he wailed twice and rummaged around in his armpit. It seemed that he had fished out a black pill. Then, he tossed it into his mouth and chewed it twice with a smacking sound. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but feel disgusted. How did this guy rub the dirt from his body? Or did he take medicine? Fuck. I've never seen such a disgusting thing. The 3 Stars Divine Clan is indeed the 3 Stars Divine Clan. I've seen this fucking thing. Everyone cursed in their hearts. They tried their best not to vomit. However, the next scene left everyone gobsmacked. They saw that the terrifying wounds on this monster's body suddenly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wounds closed and formed scars in a short while. Then, they saw that this guy stretched out his hand and stroked them. And the scars fell off. He moved his arms and legs and could move freely. Everyone's eyeballs fell to the ground. Is there such a miraculous medicine in this world? They suddenly felt that they had been fooled. Why would you use our medicine if you have such a good medicine? Wow, dog auntie. You're a beautiful coquettish dog. This strange man looked at his own body and nodded in satisfaction. Then, he looked at everyone with a disdainful look in his eyes. The meaning behind his words was, your medicine is too inferior. Everyone almost fainted. Fuck. We've been despised by a monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The 4th Elder's eyes lit up. If we can get the formula of this miraculous medicine after this matter is over, then, wouldn't the OU clan's world-defying heavens soar to meteoric success? This is an opportunity given to our OU clan by the heavens. The strange man turned around impatiently and made a gesture with his hands, indicating that he was going to chase after them. Then, he made a gesture with his hands, indicating that he was going to put them into his pocket. Then, he made a gesture with his hands, indicating that he was going to put them into his pocket. He had an anxious look on his face. It seemed as if he would get caught if he was late. Well, he said that there's a treasure over there. He's fighting with them for that treasure. It's a very important treasure. So, he'll be taken away if he's late. The king-level expert who had been acting as a translator was very smart. He clearly explained the movements of this monster's limbs. A good thing that this monster is so anxious about. Everyone's eyes lit up. So, they urged him to move forward. This monster was very familiar with the way. He passed through the dense fog as if it were his own home. He then hurriedly rushed in a direction. The people of the 4th Elder followed closely behind him. The people of the 3rd Elder outflanked him from another direction. The people of the 2nd Elder were slightly behind him. They were taking the aerial route. They were jumping over trees one by one. Everyone held their breaths tightly. A 3-pronged attack from 3 directions. We must not give these guys the opportunity to escape again. The 4th Elder and the others suddenly felt their legs go soft as they walked. Looking down, all he could see was a patch of land that was half swampy. The soles of their shoes were wet. That strange man was still leading the way. His feet were splashing mud everywhere as he stepped on them. The 4th Elder waved his hand, speed up. Everyone obeyed the order, and chased after him. Their feet slowly became softer. And more water stains appeared. Eventually, the mud covered their feet. Many water stains had splashed on their calves. After walking for a while, everyone's legs were dripping with mud. Even their skin was stained with it. Only the boots of the 4th Elder were not stained on his body. But, the other 8 people were not spared. The last king-level expert felt a little itchy on his calf. He couldn't help but bend down and scratch it a few times. But, he didn't expect that he would scratch a big piece of flesh off his calf. And, his pale bones were exposed. He didn't feel any pain at all. Moreover, the 5 fingers on his right hand had also turned into white bones after he scratched his hand. His flesh and blood fell down neatly. This king-level expert had just shaken hands with this monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. He looked at his hands and feet in extreme fear. He suddenly felt extremely frightened. In fact, he didn't even dare to breathe. Water has such a terrible poison. What's going on? Boo-hoo. The king-level expert was stunned for a while. He then asked while crying. But, the 3 Stars Divine Clan's monster who was leading the way suddenly looked in a certain direction. Then, He let out a loud cry of extreme alarm the moment he asked this question. This voice was mournful. In fact, it seemed as if a ghost had appeared in front of him. The fourth elder rushed forward to take a look. He saw that there was a newly dug big hole under a big tree in front of him. And that monster was pointing at this big hole. He was crazily screaming. His face was mournful, and his voice was miserable. Boo-hoo! 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 The monster turned his head and shouted at the fourth elder. The fourth elder was confused. He asked, "Is it here?" He pointed at the big hole. The monster nodded repeatedly. He pointed at the fourth elder and shouted, "Boo-hoo! Boo-hoo! 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 Boo-hoo!" The fourth elder wrinkled his brows. The last king-level expert finally came back to his senses. He loudly shouted, "Fourth elder." Then, he flew up and pounced over. The fourth elder instinctively turned his head. Suddenly, that monster crazily raised a big pile of muddy water from under his feet. It was like a screen that connected the sky. It splashed on everyone's body. The fourth elder's face and neck were also stained with a lot of mud. He couldn't open his eyes. The fourth elder was caught off guard. He angrily turned his head and shouted, "Bastard! You want to do?" However, his soul suddenly flew out of his body. He saw a bright beam of light suddenly appear in front of him. This monster of the 3 Stars Divine clan had fiercely brandished his sword, and was rushing towards him. The fourth elder's eyes were still covered by the muddy water. He hastily retreated with all his might. The long sword in his hand also burst out with a brilliant sword flower. He then counterattacked and blocked the attack. He was confident that he would be able to block any kind of attack. Chapter 494. The figure of this strange man shook as he laughed out loud. He fell down from the big tree, and disappeared in the fog with a shua sound. This 3 Stars Divine clan was the second Master Gmo in disguise. Sure enough, the attack was successful. Baidu search network's high quality update ***. The fourth elder was furious. He was about to chase an attack when he suddenly saw his subordinates looking at their feet in horror. The fourth elder looked down, and couldn't help but shout loudly. He then spouted out a mouthful of blood. He saw that his subordinates were standing there like wooden chickens. Their faces were full of despair. The few people who had held hands with that monster were in an even more miserable state. Their hands had turned into bones. The few people who had lifted up their pants to look screamed even more miserably. Only the bones of their calves were left to support them. Not a single trace of blood or flesh could be seen. Furthermore, there was a black color that was silently spreading upwards. Wherever it reached, the flesh there would start to rot silently. Moreover, they couldn't feel anything from this rot. What kind of poison is this? The fourth elder took out a handful of detoxification pills in a flurry, and stuffed them all into his mouth. It could be said that the OU clan's detoxification pills were the best in the world. But he couldn't feel anything even after taking so many pills. The fourth elder lowered his head to look at his legs. But he discovered that his eyes couldn't see anything after he lowered his head. He stretched out his hand in horror, and touched his face. But a large piece of flesh fell off, and he couldn't even feel the bones. Fourth elder. Fourth elder. The anxious voices of the second elder and the third elder came from afar. They had clearly discovered the situation here, and were rushing over with all their might. "Don't come over." The fourth elder exhausted the last of his strength, and loudly shouted. His voice was sobbing, "The water here is poisoned. We'll lose our lives if we touch it. We're done for, don't come over, don't come over." He had become hoarse by the time he had spoken the last sentence. Then, he spat out his tongue with a puff sound. His throat issued an extremely sullen muffled groan, and he fell to the ground while facing upwards. The surrounding 8 people scattered in all directions in fear, as if they would be saved if they left this place. However, each of them only managed to run 4 or 5 steps before their legs were so rotten that they could no longer support their bodies. With a splash, they fell into the water. When the second elder heard the commotion, he had already flown over. When the fourth elder shouted, he had already begun to fall down. But when he heard the warning, he immediately grabbed a branch and hung his entire body in the air. With a cracking sound, the tree branch broke. He had already used his weak strength to climb up the tree. The third elder also led his people to join the second elder's people. The 18 people were dumbfounded as they watched the fourth elder and the others rolling in the muddy water. Then, they slowly rotted. They couldn't even make a sound. They slowly wriggled and twisted into white skeletons. In the end, even the white skeletons gradually melted and rotted, returning to the original swamp. A few bubbles appeared on the surface of the swamp, and after a moment of turbulence, a cloud of mist rose up and merged with the dense fog above, restoring the swamp to its original state. It seemed as if nothing had happened here. Even a godly scout wouldn't be able to see that a human life had been swallowed in this tranquil swamp. Moreover, it was the life of an expert. 1 emperor-level expert and 8 king-level expert. The second elder, the third elder, and the others were in a daze as they watched their brothers die. They had turned into corpses, and had turned into swamp water. However, they were dumbstruck and at a loss of what to do. Their hearts were in extreme pain. However, they couldn't do anything about it. The third elder looked at this swamp in a daze. His lips squirmed as he nervously said, "Old man, what kind of poison is this?" "Fourth brother. What is this?" The second elder looked up to the sky, and let out a long and loud howl. Then, he let out a heart-wrenching and blood-sobbing roar, "Chu Yang, Jiu Du Xing. You little dogs, this old man swears to the heaven and earth, I swear that I won't be a man if I don't tear you to pieces." Several sneers seemed to be heard from the distant dense fog. "Chase after them." The second elder's face was filled with murderous aura. He was mad with anger. "You can use poison. But, can't our Ou Bing clan use poison?" Everyone became even more cautious as they chased after them. Everyone was carrying a few small animals in their hands. They would throw one animal over to check if there were water stains or swamps. Then, they would hurry on with their journey depending on the situation. The big trees in the surroundings were out of luck. Their branches were broken off one by one. They were thrown on the water's surface, and stepped on to fly away. They were extremely cautious. But, nothing had happened. However, nothing unexpected had happened along the way. They searched for a while. They felt that the ground under their feet was getting softer and softer. It had turned out to be half swamp-like ground. They lowered their heads, and saw that there was a faint flow of water. The second elder took a deep breath. He threw out a snake first. Everyone felt relieved when they saw that snake swimming in this swamp in a panic. The second elder wrinkled his brows. He suddenly thought of a wonderful idea. He took a deep breath. Suddenly, his whole body emitted black smoke. He slowly stretched out his hands as if he was holding a baby. The black smoke rose from his palms. Then, it suddenly disappeared. He then pressed his palms on his dantian. A layer of snow-white area was visible to the naked eye. It started to extend from the feet of the second elder. It started to spread rapidly as it came in contact with the water stains on the ground. In fact, it looked like a snow-white layer of salt frost had spread on the ground at a very fast speed. Every place that it came in contact with had turned into a frosty white color. The frosty white quickly spread up the tree even if it came in contact with it. And, the entire tree had turned snow-white in an instant. And this strange white color was still rapidly extending inwards. A few water snakes rushed out of the swamp. But, they twisted twice as they fell into the range of this white frost. Then, their bodies stiffened, and became motionless. The ants and insects along the way were poisoned to death. Even some birds on the trees fell down with a bang sound. The entire chill wind forest had suddenly turned into a death zone. Poison evil divine technique. This was the Ou clan's secret technique. Every member of the Ou clan had this technique. However, the second elder was already an expert if he had practiced to such a level. Chu Yang and the others would undoubtedly die if they came in contact with this white fog. The second elder had absolute confidence in himself. "I haven't heard of anyone who has been able to break this poison evil divine technique of the Ou clan in the past 3 days. Using poison to counter poison. You've poisoned my brothers. So, I'll poison you to death. The range of the poison evil divine technique was getting bigger and bigger as the second elder strode forward. It was getting denser and more extensive. More and more small creatures were dying. In fact, they were even floating on the water's surface. Leia. The eyes of the other experts of the OU clan lit up as they saw this. This method is good. It saves us the time to be on guard. Moreover, it can kill the enemy directly. Therefore, they all followed suit. Therefore, the range of the white frost continued to spread. 18 people launched the poison evil divine technique in a short time. And, the range of the poison evil divine technique had expanded to several thousand feet in a short time. They slowly moved forward in this manner. They would be safe as long as they saw earthworms and the like coming out of the ground after the poison evil divine technique had passed. Therefore, the speed of everyone on the ground had increased a lot. Big brother, what should we do? Luo Kudi nervously asked from afar. Many of the traps that Chu Yang had set up had lost their effectiveness due to this kind of advance. Chu Yang frowned as he pondered bitterly. However, he realized that he didn't have any good method to deal with the enemy's battle formation after a long time. All the traps would be detected as long as the enemy's poison evil divine technique passed through them. So, how could he take advantage of this situation? Chu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up as he looked at the poisonous fog that was advancing like a forest of salt frost. He turned his head and said, "Let's have a decisive battle since this is the case. But, we must do this and this." Jimo, Luo Kudi, and Dong Wushong came over with a wave of his hand. They listened to Chu Yang's words in a low voice. So and so, but the four of you must go all out when the time comes. You must entangle one of the two emperor-level experts, do you understand? Chu Yang's voice was very cold and gloomy. He clenched his teeth, and a sinister look appeared in his eyes. Jiyu Duxing, Dong Wushong, and the other three slowly nodded with heavy expressions on their faces. Dong Wushong asked after a long time, "Big brother, can you do it alone?" Chu Yang clenched his teeth and said, "I have a 40% chance of success as long as I operate well." 40% chance of success. Dong Wushong and Jiyu Duxing looked at each other. Their expressions slowly turned. They said, "Good. King-level experts have a 10% chance of dealing with Emperor-level expert. Let alone 40%. The two of them didn't hesitate. Jiyu Duxing immediately turned around and gave instructions to the experts of the Jiyu clan. Suddenly, the atmosphere became unprecedentedly tense. The second elder and the others spared no effort in urging their poison techniques. They slowly searched the entire chill wind forest. But, they didn't find anything. They had already arrived at the heart of the chill wind forest. "I don't believe that you can grow wings and fly away." The second elder clenched his teeth in anger, continued. He hadn't finished speaking when they suddenly heard the sound of a heavy object falling down in front of them. It fell into the swamp with a bang sound. This caused a burst of dense moisture. Listening to this sound, one could tell that a human body had fallen to the ground. The second elder's eyes lit up. He hastily said in a low voice, "Let's go over and take a look. Be careful." The third elder agreed, and walked over to the side. More than a dozen people surrounded him from behind. "Big brother, first launch your domain to protect your whole body. Everyone else, don't stop releasing your poison techniques," the second elder hastily reminded him. Then, he launched his own domain as he spoke. A layer of completely transparent spirit energy violently gushed out of his body, and formed a transparent spirit energy shield around his body. Even the dense fog inside this spirit energy shield obeyed his command, and gathered to one side. Yes. The third elder also launched his domain. But, his complexion was sad. He sighed and said, "Big Brother 8 hasn't comprehended the power of the domain since the beginning. Big Brother 4 has comprehended it. But, he hasn't had the opportunity to use it until now." The second elder's face twitched in pain. He then said, "Let's go." He took the lead and walked out. Some people were already flying as the poison technique spread. But, they fell down halfway, and heavily fell into the swamp. They should be Chu Yang and the others, judging from their clothes. They walked for more than 100 feet, and saw a particularly dense forest in front of them. However, the poisonous fog had already corroded the forest. And all the trees had turned white. More than a dozen people were lying down under the trees. Some of them were constantly struggling. Some of them were barely standing up. But their complexions had turned blue, and they were drooling from the corners of their mouths. Chapter 495. You bastards! Give me back my fourth brother's life. The third elder was somewhat agitated. He roared and was about to pounce forward. Wait! Be careful of a trap. The second elder reached out and grabbed him. His eyes were bright as he looked at the scene. He waved his hand and a flash of lightning whizzed out. It was a dagger. It was aimed at Jiyu Du-Xing, who was at the front. The target was Jiyu Du-Xing's chest. Obviously, he wanted to kill someone first to confirm it. After all, they were faced with a life and death crisis. Even if they had a trap, they would still take action. At that time, they would be able to see if they had set a trap again. Jiyu Du-Xing's eyes turned cold as he showed a determined look. This dagger was not fast. He could have caught it with his hand. As for dodging, it would have been even easier. But as long as he dodged it, it would prove that these people were pretending. At that time, they would have been completely wiped out. He looked at his brothers with reluctance. His body twisted with difficulty. It seemed that he could not dodge it anymore. Jiyu Du-Xing had decided to sacrifice himself for this mission and the lives of his brothers. The dagger light whizzed over. Young lord! A mournful cry was heard. Suddenly, a person beside Jiyu Du-Xing fiercely jumped up. He staggered and pushed Jiyu Du-Xing to one side. His movements were so slow that it seemed that he could not dodge it anymore. He used his chest to meet the dagger. Boom! Blood splattered everywhere. The dagger was deeply inserted into the chest of this king-level expert. His face twitched in pain. Then, his body stiffened, and he slowly fell down. Blood flowed out of the corners of his mouth. He had stopped breathing. Uncle Wang! Jiyu Du-Xing shouted. His eyes suddenly opened wide. He was indescribably sorrowful. However, when the second elder and the others saw this scene, they laughed heartily. Clearly, these people had really been poisoned. Otherwise, they would have been able to dodge such a slow dagger. Not to mention, they would have lost the life of a king-level master. Catch them and bring them here. I want all of them alive. The second elder said ferociously, I want to torture them to death one by one. I want to take revenge for Old 4 and Old 8. With a command, the 10 experts behind him took a step forward at the same time. Like wolves and tigers, they rushed towards the people in front of the field who no longer had the power to resist. The third elder had rushed to the front. His movements were the fastest. He grabbed Chu Yang and tied him up. He then said with an evil grin, King of Hell Chu, you've also fallen into this old man's hands. Chu Yang looked at him weakly and said with a bitter smile, using poison to plot against me, what kind of ability is that? Bullshit. Just now, you used poison to plot against my fourth brother. Is that honorable? The third elder angrily cursed and shouted, take them all away. The 10 king-level experts received the order, and grabbed one person each. Some of them even fiercely shoved them. After retrieving the weapons, Zhong Xian felt more at ease. He grabbed it and walked back. Why is there one person missing? The second elder looked from afar and frowned, including the dead one, we are still missing a little girl. Where is that little girl? An unforeseen event suddenly happened while he was in doubt. The captives that the 10 king-level experts were holding in their hands were half dead. But they suddenly moved one after another. Their fists and palms shot out at the nearest distance, and fiercely struck the vital points of the king-level experts who were holding them in high spirits. They attacked their chests, heads, lower body, and dantians. Moreover, they kept attacking. Countless punches and kicks fell on the bodies of these people. Suddenly, a burst of intense swordlight erupted from the bosom of the third elder. The swordlight was so sharp and overbearing that it caught the third elder off guard even though he had already activated his domain. The sword light shot out like thousands of cold rays of sunlight. Then, it unceasingly pierced the domain with a puff sound. Then, it gathered into a bunch and crazily rammed into the domain. It broke a hole in the domain's spirit energy shield with a bang sound. Then, it crazily released a violent storm of attacks. Blood-curdling screams were heard from that side. The 10 king-level experts of the OU clan had been beaten into a pile of mud in the blink of an eye. Jiu Du Xing and the others didn't utter a word after they had launched their attacks. They snatched their weapons without any hesitation. Then, the 4 brothers merged their bodies with their swords, and rushed towards the second elder with thunderous roars. Another king-level expert of the Jiu clan shouted loudly, and snatched his weapon. Then, he faced the remaining king-level experts of the OU clan. It was a one-on-one fight. The killing began in an instant. The bodies of the 10 king-level experts softly fell to the ground at this time. Some of them were already dead. Some of them weren't dead. But, they were on their last breath. They had been attacked by experts of the same level in their bosom. And, they had been laughing all the time. So, they hadn't been able to guard against it. The second elder didn't get enough time to warn them. But, an unforeseen event had already happened. He couldn't help but stare in anger. He furiously roared, and saw 3 swordlights and a tyrannical saberlight cover his body. He furiously roared, and his face was filled with murderous intention. Good juniors. This old man will tear you apart alive. He flicked his wrist, and the swordlight flashed. Then, he angrily rushed forward. The 5 people crazily fought in a group in an instant. Chu Yang had already become ruthless on that side. The first 12 sword moves of the Calamity Sword were launched at the same time. Then, the 4 sword moves that he had created were launched at the same time. He didn't even look at the state of the third elder in front of him. He just kept his head down and unleashed the strongest attack he could muster. The third elder's screams shook the clouds. He was also caught off guard. The only thing that made him stronger than the others was that he had activated his protective domain. However, such a domain couldn't withstand a single blow from the Calamity Sword. It had been broken by the second move. But, it had also won him some time to retreat at a fast speed. However, Chu Yang's attacks followed closely behind. They were getting faster and fiercer. The third elder suddenly had a feeling, I'm standing in front of the sea. And, I'm facing the rising tide of the sea. Or, I'm standing at the bottom of a cliff. But, a landslide has suddenly occurred. Moreover, the landslide is accompanied by a flash flood. The third elder was in for a tragedy. He desperately pulled out his sword to block, but after blocking twice, he found that his sword had already been shattered into pieces by the opponent's sword. Then, he felt pain in his palm, chest, back, and eyes. He roared. His heart beat wildly. He cursed. He trembled and twisted under the swordlight. Then, with a boom, he turned into minced meat under the dazzling swordlight. At this time, Chu Yang had only launched the 7th move of the Calamity Sword. However, he could no longer stop. He actually continuously attacked the air that was filled with flesh and blood, and madly attacked with another 7 move. In the blink of an eye, sword energy soared into the sky in this narrow area, moving unhindered. He finally finished and withdrew his sword. However, there was only a bloody mist in front of him. He couldn't even see a strand of the third elder's hair. The attacks were too concentrated. Chu Yang didn't hesitate. He immediately took out an incomplete version of the heavy pill, and stuffed it into his mouth. He circulated it to restore his strength. Then, he launched an attack on his sword without stopping. He went straight to Jiu Du Xing and the others. On the other side, the 4 king-level experts were crazily attacking their opponents. They all had the same thought in their hearts, even if I die, I won't let them rescue the second elder. Jiu Du Xing and the others were in imminent danger. The second elder was a 3rd-grade emperor-level expert. So, how could Jiu Du Xing and the other 3rd-grade king-level experts deal with him? The 4 of them had already gone all out. But, they were retreating step by step. They were firmly suppressed by the second elder alone. However, the 4 of them didn't retreat. Blood had already seeped out of the mouths and noses of the 4 people in this short period of time. Dong Wushong gave the second elder the most pressure. However, his counterattack was also particularly fierce. His face was covered with blood at this moment. The web between his thumb and index finger had been shattered. He had no choice but to hold his saber with both hands and attack crazily. The second elder had suppressed the 4 people in a disadvantageous position. However, the 4 of them were sticking to his body like sticky candy. So, he couldn't get away. He was even more impatient and furious than the 4 of them. That was because he still had time to look around and listen in all directions. He had seen with his own eyes that his third brother's vital energy shield had been broken by the enemy's attacks. Then, his sword had been broken. Then, his palm had been injured. Then, he had been stabbed in the chest. Then, his eyes had been pierced. Then, he had spurted out blood from his entire body. The second elder's heart was bleeding. However, he couldn't rush over no matter what. He would have been able to pull the third elder out of that sword light in the blink of an eye if he had rushed over earlier. Then, he would have saved him. He would have been seriously injured and crippled. But, he would have been able to save his life. However, he was so anxious that his heart was bleeding. But, he couldn't move even a step. Someone would have knocked him back with a weapon as long as he wanted to move. He would have knocked him back even if he had to sacrifice his own life. He could have reversed the situation of this battle. However, he was powerless to do so. This made the second elder extremely sullen. He was about to go crazy with rage. It had only been a moment, but the other side was already done. His third brother had turned into a pile of blood foam in the air. And, the murderer who had killed his third brother with his own hands was rushing towards him on his sword. "Damned Sword King," the second elder yelled furiously. His eyes had turned red. "Come, come, all of you, come," he roared crazily. Chu Yang came from the sky. His sword flashed in the air. It was a move of what harm is there in slaughtering the entire world. This move came from 100 feet away. The moment it arrived was the moment when its power was at its greatest. "Duxing!" Chu Yang roared. His voice resounded through the clouds. Jiu Duxing responded. He attacked crazily and immediately took a step back. Chu Yang had already passed through this gap with the momentum of a thunderbolt. He rushed towards the second elder, who was busy dealing with Dong Wushong, Luo Kudai, and Jimo's attacks. The second elder's beard flared. He shouted angrily, "Come!" He didn't dodge. Instead, he used his energy shield to block the attacks of Dong Wushong and the other 2. He also flew up on his sword and met Chu Yang in midair. With a loud boom, the 2 sword lights crazily collided in midair. Chapter 496. The attack of the Tribulation Sword was mixed with the unparalleled sharpness of the Tribulation Sword in the world. So, its might was extremely formidable, especially since the Tribulation Sword had swallowed so many exotic metals and medicinal herbs during this period of time. So, its might had become even more formidable than before. However, the second elder was a 3rd-grade emperor-level expert. So, he was a grade higher than Chu Yang. The quality of his sword was far inferior to Chu Yang's. However, his profound spiritual power wasn't to be trifled with either. The 2 sword lights collided with each other like 2 meteors. There was a loud bang, and the brilliant sword lights exploded all over the sky. The entire chill wind forest fiercely trembled at this moment. The cement of the swamp fiercely jumped up with a loud bang, and splashed up to a height of more than 100 feet. Dong Wushong, Luo Kudai, and Jimo, who were the closest to the impact, let out a miserable groan at the same time. They were sent flying by the huge impact, and fell to the ground with a bang. Chu Yang and the second elder screamed at the same time. Their bodies were sent flying backwards at the same time. Blood arrows had been spurted out from different parts of their bodies. Both of them had been seriously injured by this blow. Chu Yang's chest and shoulders had been hit by the setting sail watermark, his lower abdomen, and his shoulders. The second elder's chest and shoulders had also been hit by the setting sail watermark, and his legs and arms had also been hit by the setting sail watermark. Chu Yang's body was still in midair. He had already prepared an incomplete version of the heavy pill, and had stuffed it into his mouth. Chu Yang had consumed 2 incomplete versions of the heavy pill in this insignificant battle that had lasted less than a breath's time. This clearly showed how tragic this battle was. One could imagine that Chu Yang would have died at least once if he didn't have the heavy pill. Chu Yang had the heavy pill, but the second elder didn't have such a godly item. The intensity of this attack had completely dispersed the power of the domain on the second elder's body. And the spiritual energy cover had disappeared without a trace. Even an emperor-level expert would consume a lot of his true elemental energy every time he used such a life-saving method. So, how could he dare to use the domain again in such a fierce battle? The body of the second elder hadn't even landed on the ground when Jiyu Duxing, who had just retreated to make preparations, had already fused with his sword. The sword light soared high into the sky, and shot towards the body of the second elder. The second elder felt a sense of crisis. So, he roared, and fiercely circulated the spirit energy in his entire body. Suddenly, several wounds on his body started to spurt out blood. But he managed to hang on to his last breath. He circulated his spirit energy, and once again collided with Jiyu Duxing in midair. This was a desperate attack from a third-grade sword king. The second elder did his best to counterattack, and the two of them fiercely collided. At the same time, they screamed and screamed. Jiyu Duxing clenched his teeth, and flew backwards in the air without feeling anything. Blood spurted out from 3 places on his body, and filled the air. He had been injured by the second elder's fists and fingers. 7 of his ribs had been broken, his entire chest had almost caved in, but the front half of the black dragon longsword in his hand was dripping with blood. His sword had already pierced deeply into second elder's right chest, and he was forced back by the other party's counterattack. Second elder drifted backwards again. He was already heavily injured. At this moment, Dong Wushong roared like a hungry wolf. He became one with his saber, and rushed over. Jimo and Luo Kudi also became one with their swords. They followed behind Dong Wushong, and attacked the second elder with all their might. The attacking style of these 3 people was the same as Jiyu Duxing's a moment ago. They were all risking their lives. They were putting their entire strength, heart, soul, and life into this attack. The second elder won't die. We will die. This is a clear thought. Therefore, we must take advantage of his illness to take his life. Chu Yang shouted from afar. He turned over and jumped up. His calamity sword flashed, and he once again used what harm is there in slaughtering the entire world. He flew high up in the air with his sword. The second elder's heart was filled with intense regret. I should have retreated and escaped when I discovered the ambush. Even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't have thought that these 5 youngsters would be so abnormal. I'm a 3rd-grade Emperor-level expert. A 3rd-grade Emperor-level expert. I'm facing the danger of losing my life. However, he didn't have time to regret. Dong Wushong had already become one with his saber. The second elder roared in despair. He once again gathered the remaining strength of his body, and crazily collided with Dong Wushong. Dong Wushong shouted. The heavy black saber flew out of his hand, and spun in the air. However, this 3rd-grade saber king had risked his life to attack. But this had made the second elder's situation even worse. He fiercely spouted out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't suppress the injuries in his body as he spouted out this mouthful of blood. He spouted out several mouthfuls of blood in succession. His eyes had already turned somewhat dim. His left hand drooped down softly. It had been smashed to pieces by the heavy black saber. At this moment, Jimo and Luo Kudi combined their swords, and rushed over with a loud roar. The second elder screamed. He suddenly attacked with his remaining right hand. Countless poisonous fog and black gas suddenly emerged from his body. This was his last life-saving trick, igniting the starting voyage water seal to burn his own poison, and fight for a chance to escape. The poison that had been cultivated in the starting voyage water seal for over 100 years would be completely destroyed after it was burned. It wouldn't be able to be used again. This was something that could only be used at the last moment. The second elder wouldn't have done this if he hadn't been forced to the point where he was at the end of his rope. However, Jimo and Luo Kudi weren't afraid at all. They forcibly broke through the poisonous fog and rushed in. "You aren't afraid of poison?" The second elder screamed in despair. Two bang, bang. Sounds were heard as the two men and their swords collided with his body. The second elder screamed. Blood splashed out from his body like a bloody gourd. There were at least 100 wounds on his body, and his flesh was torn apart at the same time. Crack, crack. Sounds were heard from his chest. It was unknown how many bones had been broken. However, he was still able to escape. There was a big tree behind him. He stamped his feet and used the last of his strength to rush up. He would have been able to fly out as long as he had stamped on the tree trunk. However, it was too late. A brilliant sword light rushed over like a meteor and cut off all the second elder's hope. Chu Yang. Calamity sword. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? Chu Yang burst open a big bloody hole in the second elder's chest with a bang sound. Then, he rushed out of his body. The light in the second elder's eyes dimmed. He stood powerlessly on the top of the tree. Then, he suddenly let out a long sigh. His head lowered and rolled down from his neck with a rumbling sound. Then, his fragmented body fell down from the tree. It fell halfway and scattered into a pile of minced meat. Chu Yang and the others had smeared the poison on their swords when they fell on the ground. This pile of minced meat instantly turned into black water and completely decayed. Chu Yang whistled as he came back on his flying sword. He arrived beside the unconscious Jiu Duxing and fed him an incomplete version of the heavy pill. Then, he jumped up without looking. He whistled and rushed towards the other king-level experts with Jimo and Luo Kudi. The outcome had been decided. All the experts of the OU clan had been annihilated. Not a single one of them had escaped. Everyone had been thinking about this battle for a long time. That was because this was a battle of life and death in the truest sense of the word. Even if they had been a little bit negligent, or even a little bit uncooperative, then, they would have been the ones lying here at this moment. Chapter 497. This fight had lasted for less than a quarter of an hour. No, it wasn't even 1/3 of a quarter of an hour. However, this was the most dangerous fight that Chu Yang and his brothers had faced since their debut. In fact, each of them had exhausted all of their strength in this fight. Everyone had been circling around the door of death countless times. But, fortunately, we won. We won. Shuo Duxing sat up from the ground. His blood-stained face exposed a brilliant smile. One. Dongwu Shong, Luo Kudi, and the others felt as if they were dreaming. They still couldn't believe these words. This fight had been a sneak attack and a plot. But, they had been outnumbered after all. Moreover, the two leaders of the opposite party were genuine Emperor-level expert. They felt a dull pain in their chests. They had been injured by the Emperor-level experts. They still had a lingering fear in their hearts. But, the enemy had already been annihilated. It was a dreamlike and unreal scene. Dongwu Shong's heavy black saber was inserted straight into the ground. It was emitting a cold and majestic radiance. The people of the OU clan had slowly turned into a puddle of blood. They were rotting in this gloomy chill wind forest. Shuo Duxing and the others slowly stood up. They looked at the human tragedy that they had created with their own hands. They were collectively silent. Only their throats were gasping for breath. This is only the beginning. More and more powerhouses will fall because they have offended us in the future, Chu Yang insipidly said after they had calmed down a little. We killed 5 Emperor-level experts today. But, we also died. We brothers would have died 10 times if we hadn't plotted against them. Chu Yang stood up. His sharp vision swept over the faces of his brothers. He slowly extended his hand, and slowly clenched it into a fist. His eyes were fixed on his fist. He slowly said in a low and deep voice, "But, we will make such Emperor-level experts fall under our hands one day, and we can destroy them with a flip of our hand." He had spoken the last few words very slowly. But, they were brimming with strong self-confidence. The brothers looked at Chu Yang's clenched fist, and slowly stretched it. Then, he fiercely flipped it over, and pressed it down. They couldn't help but feel their hearts throbbing violently. It seemed as if this palm had crushed an emperor-level expert into fine powder. It's that easy. Chu Yang turned around and smiled. His snow-white teeth sparkled in the dense fog. Everyone looked at him quietly. Their eyes were shining, but they did not say a word. After a long time, Shuo Du-Xing slowly turned his head. He looked at the king-level expert of the Shuo clan and said, "I wish to follow Big Brother Chu and join the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Everyone, are you willing to come along?" The two men looked at each other. Then, the leader of the king-level experts, Shuo Qingfeng, took a step forward, and solemnly said, "We brothers are not proficient in our studies. So, it will be difficult for us to make even an inch of progress in our lives. It's rare for the young master to have such great ambitions. We brothers are willing to help the young master at all costs to fulfill his wish. At your beck and call, at your beck and call." He smiled bleakly as he looked at his brother's corpse lying in a pool of blood. He said in a low voice, "The pot never breaks when it leaves the well. A general can't avoid dying in battle. We, the people of Jianghu, know that every step we take will lead to death. The only thing we can't let go of is the precarious situation of our Shuo clan. If the young master can reach the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, then, even if you don't represent the Shuo clan, there will still be one person surnamed Shuo in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. We brothers will have no regrets even if we die." Shuo Du-Xing took a deep breath. He felt that the rims of his eyes were somewhat hot as he said, "I'm the Shuo clan's young master. So, I'm naturally a member of the Shuo clan. If there is such a person, then the Heavenly Armament Pavilion will have the name of my Shuo clan." Everyone knelt down in an orderly manner. Their old tears streamed down their faces. "We're willing to follow the young master and join the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. We'll have no regrets even if we have to die 10,000 times. Shuo Du-Xing nodded and said, "The Heavenly Armament Pavilion is still weak at the moment. It's inappropriate to reveal our secrets and identities. This," Shuo Qingfeng solemnly said, "this is natural. Everything has its own rules and regulations. It's not the first day that we've come to Jianghu. So, we naturally understand, no matter what, we've been mingling in the three heavens for more than half of our lives. So, we're confident that we know more than the young clan lords. We can pay attention to many things in the future." Shuo Du-Xing nodded with gratification. A trace of a smile appeared on his cold face. He had used some means to drive away those three people who had an unstable position. So, he had left behind some loyal and reliable people to form the first team of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. He would have a great chance of success if he had this group of Jianghu veterans with him in the future. Everyone discussed for a while. Then, they buried the dead king-level expert. Then, they continued to move forward without stopping. "We'll come back to settle this account with the Ou clan sooner or later." Chu Yang gazed in the direction of the Ou clan before he left. He slowly said after a long time, "The Ou clan won't exist in the next three heavens." He turned around and left. He didn't even look back on the way. He was a person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. The Ou clan had schemed against him, and had caused the tragic death of one of his men. His brothers had also been seriously injured. So, how could Chu Yang not remember this account in his heart? Shuo Du-Xing remained silent in front of the new grave for a long time. His complexion was like iron, and his eyes were expressionless. He suddenly grabbed a handful of soil from the grave before he left. Then, he stuffed it into his mouth, and swallowed it. He knelt down, and heavily kowtowed 3 times. Then, he got up, and strode away. He didn't look back. "This enmity is mine. I'll settle this debt for you. I won't say anything. But, you'll know my intentions if your spirit is still there. I'll return to the chill wind forest after I've killed the Ou clan's people. And, I'll tell you, so that you can rest in peace." Shuo Du-Xing didn't say these words out loud. In fact, he didn't say a single word. However, he had made an ironclad vow in his heart. He left in large strides. His black cloak fluttered in the wind. And he left behind a straight and sword-like silhouette in the chill wind forest. Enmity is in the heart, but kindness is in the heart. Enmity must be repaid with one's own hands, kindness must be repaid 10,000 times over. This was Shuo Duxing's principle. The chill wind forest was once again shrouded in a dense fog after everyone had left. It seemed as if the remnant souls of the new arrivals were howling and crying. But it also seemed as if the heroic souls of the Shuo clan were smiling and waving their hands to bid farewell. 3 days later, at the Ou clan, the teacup in the hand of the clan lord, Ou Chengwu, fell to the ground with a bang and shattered into pieces. The complexions of the great elder and the others were gloomy, as if they wanted to eat someone alive. Ou Du Xiao's complexion was deathly pale. He opened his mouth, but his lips were trembling. But he couldn't utter a single word. This king-level expert had come to report the completion of his mission while carrying 3 heads. However, the others had chased them into the chill wind forest, and hadn't returned. The informants in the chill wind forest had reported back King of Hell Chu and his group of 12 people had passed through the forest safe and sound. Everyone was in high spirits. And a few of them were injured. The informants who had gone to the chill wind forest had reported back, looking at the traces left behind in the chill wind forest, it seemed that there had been a battle between expert. Judging from the traces left behind at the scene, the experts who had fought with each other were at the emperor level. The battlefield had been extremely tragic. The trees in the vicinity of several thousand feet had been destroyed. The battle had been fought, and the situation had been so tragic. King of Hell Chu and his group were safe and sound. Moreover, the second elder and his group hadn't returned. So, even a fool could guess what had happened. The second elder and his group had been annihilated. Moreover, their corpses had been destroyed without leaving any trace behind. They had lost 5 emperor-level experts and 24 king-level expert. This was a huge blow to the Ou clan. It was as if the sky had collapsed. There were only 5 emperor-level experts, in total. There were more than 50 king-level experts. But the remaining 20 or so were experts who had been hired for external aid. As for the true hardcore experts of the clan, there were only 30 of them. These people were the most reliable. So, the Ou clan wasn't afraid that the information would leak out. Therefore, they had been dispatched to carry out this mission. But they hadn't expected, 24 of them had died. That king-level expert had luckily returned because he hadn't gone with them. Moreover, he had come out of the chill wind forest uninjured. If he had gone with them, perhaps he would have died in vain. The Ou clan was in a gloomy and miserable state. Ou Chengwu was regretting his decision to the bone. Had I known that King of Hell Chu's group was so powerful, how could I have thought of plotting against them? The clan had clearly decided to take advantage of this opportunity to mend relations with the 4 big clans before King of Hell Chu's arrival. This was a powerful opportunity that had delivered itself to our doorstep. But this opportunity has been ruined because of everyone's greed. Moreover, we have lost the lives of 5 emperor-level experts and 24 king-level expert. Moreover, we have made powerful enemies. Why do we have to do this? It seems that King of Hell Chu's group is hiding some super expert. The great elder's chest was heaving up and down violently. His voice was trembling. But he forced himself to remain calm as he analyzed. Moreover, these guys haven't suffered any casualties under our siege. This shows that these little guys have boundless prospects in the future. Moreover, they have the support of the 4 big clans behind them. They haven't received the mission yet. It seems that they are taking revenge on us because they don't have enough strength. It seems that this enmity has been sown. They will come sooner or later. The great elder said in a heavy voice, therefore, we can't sit still and wait for death. Everything will be over in case we are suppressed by the army of the 4 big clans. I will look for them to take revenge even if they don't come. How can I let them off so easily? Ou Du Xiao clenched his teeth. The blue veins on his temples were throbbing. No matter what, a clan must first consider the strategy of self-preservation. Then, we must think about the strategy of destroying the enemy. Du Xiao, you still need to temper yourself. You must take revenge. But there are many more things that are more important than revenge. There is no other way out of a moment of hot-bloodedness, except for destruction. The Great Elder coldly glanced at Oyu Du Xiao and said, "The most important thing for us at present isn't revenge. It's self-preservation. What's the use of killing all of them if the Oyu clan is gone?" Oyu Du Xiao's face turned red as he replied, "Yes. Great Elder's teachings are correct." He drew back 2 steps, and said in his heart, "These people are your brothers. Wouldn't you scold me for being heartless if I didn't show some anger?" Chapter 498. At present, we can only form an alliance. The Great Elder said in a heavy voice, "Our current enemies are King of Hell Chu, Shuo clan, Ji clan, Luo clan, and Dong clan because of this matter. In addition, there are 2 of their staunch allies, Mo clan and Xie clan." The Great Elder raised his fingers and coldly said, "But Jiyu clan is the weakest. Mo clan has just suffered a great change. So, its strength can't be considered as strong. Ji clan is the same. We can't rely on them. But we can't pull them down. Only Luo clan, Dong clan, and Xie clan are comparable in strength to our Oyu clan." He heaved a long sigh and sadly said, "Our clan has just lost so many experts. So, we can't be compared with these 3 clans." This old man made a mistake in his calculation. He paused, and didn't speak for a long time. Then, he continued with a sorrowful look on his face, "Let's analyze the situation of the enemy and our own clans. Ji clan and Gao clan already have irreconcilable enmity. Mo clan and Black Devil clan are also irreconcilable. Dong clan and Tian clan are also constantly fighting. Shuo clan and Tu clan have deep enmity. There's also the Zhao clan. They've been suppressed by the Luo clan for a long time. Meng Shu, who's in a difficult situation now, is also a force to be reckoned with. As for the Xie clan, they've been at odds with the Li clan ever since Xie Danqiong rejected their marriage proposal." The Great Elder said in a profound manner, "The enemy of our enemy is our friend. If we can get in touch with them, we will be able to." The power of the 8 great clans is not weak. The Great Elder was worthy of being called an experienced and astute Jianghu veteran. His calculations were very clear and orderly. Although they had suffered a great change, they hadn't lost their minds. Oyu Cheng Wu's eyes lit up. "Great Elder is wise. Well, the enemy has faintly joined forces. And we need to start our operation now. We are a step behind in terms of time. But they have to deal with the spirit beasts this time. This is our time." The Great Elder frowned, "But we need to be especially vigilant against the Dark Bamboo. I heard that Duke Yu of the Dark Bamboo has a good personal relationship with King of Hell Chu. I don't know how good this relationship is. Will it affect the Dark Bamboo's attack? If the Dark Bamboo attacks, we have no chance of winning." Oyu Cheng Wu's complexion turned gloomy as he said, "Even if we contact the Ao clan and the Li clan to stand on our side, we can only be evenly matched. In fact, we might even be at a disadvantage." "You're wrong. If Bamboo were to interfere, the situation would become even more chaotic. This is because Bamboo has conflicts with all of the other clans." "There have been conflicts." The Great Elder snorted and said, "As for the Ao clan, don't even think about it. The Ao clan won't get involved in this mess, unless we kill Ao Xieyun now and shift the blame to these clans." Speaking up to this point, he suddenly stopped talking. His eyes were deep as he pondered. Oyu Cheng Wu's eyes also lit up. In an instant, the hall fell silent. After a long while, Oyu Cheng Wu stood up and said, "There's no time to lose. I'll immediately arrange for the people of the great families. Bring some natural treasures," the Great Elder said gloomily. "Now that we have a favor to ask of others, we have no choice but to spend money. Even if we keep those things, we'll just keep them. At the critical moment, we'll need to use them." Oyu Cheng Wu replied, "All right." Then, he immediately arranged for Oyu Du Xiao to bring some people to get them. Then, he began to arrange the people on this side in a rush to prepare for the diplomatic mission. However, it didn't take long for Oyu Du Xiao to rush over. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat. His face was distorted beyond recognition. It seemed as if he had lost his mind. It's not good. What's the matter? Oyu Cheng Wu was startled. Have they already come knocking on our door? The great elder became even more dissatisfied. You need to be calm in the face of trouble. How can you be in such a panic? Oyu Du Xiao's face was covered in soybean-sized beads of sweat. He almost wanted to cry. Our hidden treasure house has been robbed. Our natural treasures are gone. What? The great elder fiercely stood up. His chair fell to the ground with a bang sound. However, he didn't care about it. His old eyes that were always hidden in his wrinkles suddenly opened wide like copper bells. Say that again. It's been robbed. It's really been robbed. Oyu Du Xiao's voice carried a sobbing tone, not even a little bit. Oyu Cheng Wu fiercely drew back 3 steps. His complexion had turned as white as snow. Let's go and take a look. The great elder stood in the empty hidden treasure house not long after. He looked at the empty, heavenly fragrance jade boxes. His eyes were lifeless. He didn't speak for a long time. He seemed as if he had lost his soul. Then, he suddenly spouted out a mouthful of blood after a long time. He then looked up to the sky. Oh God, is it possible that the heaven wants my Oyu clan to perish? Oyu Cheng Wu's entire body trembled. His vision was in a mess. He muttered, how can this be? The Oyu clan had collected these natural treasures in the past for the purpose of promoting their cultivation. However, many of them had become useless once they had reached a certain amount. Therefore, they had sealed them up. The clan had become more and more powerful. And, they had resorted to all sorts of tricks and robberies. Therefore, they had collected more and more of these things. In the past, Oyu Cheng Wu had only thought that he could slowly cultivate and accumulate these good things since he had so many of them. After all, these natural treasures could be used to make poisons when the clan's poison level had reached a new level. And, these natural treasures could be used to supplement and stimulate the poison. This was the highest level of poison. Therefore, he had always managed them with great care. However, he hadn't expected that these natural treasures would be stolen at this critical juncture when the Oyu clan needed them the most. There are still some residual things inside. A lot of them are just powders. And, a lot of them are dried up elixirs, Oyu Du Xiao said in a daze. Oyu Cheng Wu suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He said, could it be that King of Hell Chu did it? Oyu Du Xiao shook his head, it shouldn't be. I've been inseparable from King of Hell Chu ever since he came here. He doesn't have any opportunity to do such a thing. It must be someone else. Investigate. Oyu Cheng Wu roared. The elixirs were gone. Moreover, the precious materials had been taken away by King of Hell Chu. The Oyu clan was a big clan. But, it had fallen into an awkward situation where it didn't have any gifts to give. Upper 3 heavens, Chu Fei Ling's return to the Chu clan had caused a huge uproar. No one had expected that Chu Fei Ling would find the mysterious young jade so quickly. Mr. Yu was greatly surprised when he received the mysterious young jade. His white beard was blown straight, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Mysterious young jade core? Where did you get this treasure? I got it by chance. It's pure luck. Chu Fei Ling smiled gently and elegantly. He didn't want to expose the existence of his little brother. Chu Fei Long would have dealt with him to vent his anger if he had known about it. Your luck is very good. Mr. Yu looked at him with envy. This old man has been looking for it for more than 100 years. But, I haven't even seen a single hair of this thing. Chu Fei Ling said, Mr. Yu, my father's injury won't be a problem now that I have this thing, right? There's absolutely no problem. Mr. Yu patted his chest and said, I've brought the mysterious young jade core here. So, I might as well smash my own reputation and become a beggar if I still can't heal Clan Lord Chu. Chu Fei Ling heaved a sigh of relief. He gratefully said, Thank you, Mr. Yu. I've troubled you. Mr. Yu chuckled. Big brother, I heard that you've returned. Have you found the mysterious young jade? A voice was heard. It was full of concern. A man walked in with large strides as this voice sounded. He had a handsome face and a tall stature. He was dressed in a brocade robe. His hair wasn't messy. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's even when he was looking at people in a gentle manner. But, This person's eyes were as deep as the sea. Moreover, his bearing was extraordinary. He stood like a deep pool and a high mountain. His every move was full of natural authority. He was the second son of the Chu clan, Chu Fei Long. I've found it. Father's injury shouldn't be a problem. Chu Fei Ling looked at his second brother with a complicated look in his eyes. He then insipidly said, "That's great." Chu Fei Long's spirit was suddenly lifted. He grabbed Chu Fei Ling's hand and said in a pleasantly surprised manner, "Big brother, we have to thank you for this trip. Third brother and I haven't been able to eat for the past few days. Alas, it's fortunate that big brother came back early. Otherwise, third brother would have been blaming himself even if I could have held on. I'm afraid that he wouldn't have been able to hold on." As he spoke, he sighed. "Third brother is like this. He's very thoughtful. I've told him a few times. This guy really gives me a headache." Chu Fei Ling swallowed his saliva, and his Adam's apple moved. He smiled and said, "Thanks to the two of you for taking care of us during my absence. Second brother, it's been hard on you." Chu Fei Long was displeased. He said earnestly, "Big brother, what are you saying? We're blood-related brothers. We share the same mother. Besides, it's only right that Zhao Shuo is our father. How can it be hard on me? Big brother, you've been running around, and this has made me feel uneasy. You must rest well for a few days and recuperate. Big brother, you're the pillar of our clan. If you collapse from exhaustion, we really don't know what to do." He spoke affectionately, and laughed heartily. He held his big brother's hand affectionately. His eyes were full of sincerity. He stared at his big brother frankly. The rims of his eyes were a little red. It was evident that he was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Chu Fei Ling sighed sadly in his heart. He thought of the Saber Emperor who chased after him in the lower three heavens. "Second brother, is it really you? I'm really willing to believe that the person in front of me is the real you." Mr. Yu looked at this scene, and couldn't help but say enviously, "You brothers have such a good relationship. It's rare to see such brothers in other clans." Chu Fei Long laughed and said sincerely, "Mr. Yu, you're praising me so much that I'm blushing. We share the same mother. If we don't have a good relationship, can we still be brothers? Big brother has always taken care of us since we were young. He's always shouldered everything for us. He's willing to work hard without complaint. If such a big brother isn't worthy of respect, then there's no big brother in the world who's worthy of respect." Mr. Yu nodded with gratification and said, "I'm going to treat Clan Master Chu's injuries. You brothers haven't seen each other for a long time. You should have a good chat." He walked in while sighing. Chapter 499. A figure flashed, and Chu Fei Yang rushed in. "Big brother, you're back. I heard that you found the mysterious young jade." His hands trembled nervously as he stared at Chu Fei Ling. Chu Fei Ling nodded and smiled. "I found it." That's great, that's great." Chu Fei Yang jumped up and realized that his second brother was also here. He hurriedly greeted him, "Second brother, you're here too." His voice was somewhat nervous. His second brother had always been very kind to him, and had taken care of him meticulously. But he didn't know why, but he felt afraid every time he saw his second brother. He was far less affectionate than his big brother. Chu Fei Yang didn't know what was going on. "Third brother, you can't change your impatient temper." Chu Fei Long frowned. "You're a man with a family and a business, but you're still like a child. What has disappointed you with big brother's work? You're still asking." Chu Fei Long reprimanded him, but pulled his younger brother over, and carefully blew away the dust on his collar. He patted his younger brother's messy hair, and was full of love. But he still rebuked him with a sullen face. "Be more careful in the future. Look at you, what have you become?" Chu Fei Yang scratched his head and smiled mischievously. He was somewhat embarrassed. "Big brother is better, but second brother always treats me like a child. This is really annoying. But second brother's love for me is really indescribable." Chu Fei Ling looked on from one side, and smiled. But he sighed painfully in his heart. Chu Fei Long's performance was impeccable, and he had deceived everyone except for himself. But how could Chu Fei Ling's personal experience be deceived? He and his wife had been chased repeatedly, and their son had been missing for 18 years. 3 heavenly saber emperors had besieged them. Could it be that all of this is fake? Second brother, what do you want? The 3 brothers sat for a while. Then, footsteps were heard from inside. Mr. Yu walked out quickly, and smiled. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Chu Fei Ling and Chu Fei Yang stood up together, and were overjoyed. A cold light flashed in Chu Fei Long's eyes. Then, he also stood up in ecstasy, and grabbed Mr. Yu's hand. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mr.'s great kindness to the Chu clan makes me shed tears of gratitude. I can't thank you enough. Please accept my bow. As he spoke, he actually fell to his knees with a plop and kowtowed repeatedly. His face was filled with tears of gratitude. His true feelings were revealed. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. Second Master Chu, you've really wronged me. Mr. Yu was very relieved. He hurriedly helped Chu Fei Long up. An old man with a leopard head and round eyes walked out with a satisfied smile. He was the head of the Chu clan, Chu Xiongcheng. The dark aura on his face had already been swept away, and his face was glowing red. It was obvious that his injuries had healed quite well. Millimeter, you're all here. Not bad. Felice, it's all thanks to you this time. Chu Xiongcheng laughed. Father, it's good that you've recovered. It's only right for me to work hard, Chu Feiling said respectfully. Big brother, has sister-in-law returned? Chu Fei Yang asked. She went to the lower 3 heavens, but I've already sent her a message. I think she'll be back in a few days, Chu Feiling said with a smile. Sister-in-law is alone. Don't let anything happen to her. Chu Fei Yang said worriedly. Your sister-in-law went down with her master. She'll definitely be fine, Chu Fei Ling said meaningfully. Big brother, you're really thoughtful. Chu Fei Long laughed. If Lord Lan is willing to take action, then, there are only a few people in the entire heavens who can hurt sister-in-law. Big brother and sister-in-law are deeply in love with each other. You really love your wife very much. Ha ha ha. Except for Chu Fei Ling, everyone laughed together. Chu Fei Ling only felt depressed, but he had to accompany them and laugh a few times. After a few days, Yang Ruolan finally returned to the Chu clan, but she came back alone. After she greeted the master, she was pulled back by Chu Fei Ling. Why did you come back so late? Chu Fei Ling was a little anxious. I went to do some things on the way, Yang Ruolan said. What's the matter? Something big. Chu Fei Ling's face was serious. I encountered Yi Ran Mo leading 8 saber emperors in the lower 3 heavens. They attacked me with a formation on the 5th day of the lower 3 heavens. He started to take action again. Yang Ruolan's complexion changed. He's really seizing every opportunity to deal with us. Are you okay? Yang Ruolan heard this, and realized that there was something fishy about this matter. I'm fine. Fortunately, I had my sworn younger brother. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to come back this time, Chu Fei Ling sighed. He couldn't help but reveal a warm smile on his face when he thought of Chu Yang. It wasn't because Chu Yang had given him so many gifts. It was because Chu Fei Ling felt a genuine affection for his sworn younger brother. Your sworn younger brother? Yang Ruolan asked in amusement. When did you have another sworn younger brother? You can't rely on your own brothers. So, you have another sworn younger brother? Haha, my sworn younger brother is very resourceful, Chu Fei Ling said mysteriously. Chu Fei Ling said mysteriously. Then, he focused on observing the movements around him. I'll tell you this, but you mustn't tell anyone else. This mysterious young jade core was given to me by my sworn younger brother. Ah! Your sworn younger brother is so generous. Yang Ruolan asked in astonishment. This mysterious young jade core is the most precious treasure in the world. But, he's willing to give it to someone else. This is nothing. My sworn younger brother has given me a lot of good things. Chu Fei Ling smiled and said, it's a pity that second brother is very popular at home. He's very close to everyone. So, I can't tell him about this matter. Otherwise, it would have reached his ears, alas. How's your sworn younger brother's cultivation? Yang Ruolan tightly knitted her brows and said, you can't tell him if his strength is low. He has ruined Chu Fei Long's plan. So, Chu Fei Long won't let him off. Yes, I have this concern. Chu Fei Ling nodded and said, my sworn younger brother's cultivation is only at the 2nd grade of Sword King. That's troublesome. But, won't Yi Ran Mo tell you even if you don't tell him? Yang Ruolan worriedly said, he's still as dangerous as before. There's no harm in bringing your sworn younger brother here. We owe him a great debt of gratitude. Wouldn't our conscience be uneasy if we don't care about him? It's all right. Chu Fei Ling slightly smiled. Yi Ran Mo has already died at the hands of my sworn younger brother. The Yi clan's saber emperors have also died with my sworn younger brother's help. None of them survived. That's good. Yang Ruolan heaved a sigh of relief. But then, she suddenly became startled. She realized that something was extremely wrong. She suddenly raised her head and opened her eyes wide. Wait, what did you say? Yi Ran Mo has already died at the hands of your sworn younger brother? Your second younger brother's cultivation is only at the 2nd grade of Sword King? He helped you to annihilate the Saber Emperors in one fell swoop? None of them survived. Yes, what's wrong? Chu Fei Ling was somewhat proud as he said, my sworn younger brother is very powerful. Yang Ruolan was dumbstruck. Even if one were to break their heads thinking, they wouldn't be able to imagine how a 2nd grade Sword King could help a 3rd grade Saber Emperor kill the other 2 Saber Emperors. It's like this. My sworn younger brother is very crafty. He didn't use his real ability to kill Yi Ran Mo. Chu Fei Ling had no choice but to narrate the situation in detail. He then said with a smile, I was shocked at that time, that's true. Yang Ruolan's gaze was lifeless. Take a guess. What's my cultivation level now? Chu Fei Ling asked mysteriously. Aren't you a hidden Saber Emperor? What else is there to guess? Yang Ruolan rolled her eyes at him and said, let's talk seriously. How did you and your sworn younger brother meet? Take a look. Chu Fei Ling stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion. Suddenly, the spirit energy of the entire space was grabbed by his hand. Then, his hand emitted a bright white light. 4 small pure white circles of light were clearly flashing on his hand. Ah! Yang Ruolan fiercely stood up. She looked at her husband in disbelief. Her eyes were full of shock. You, 4th grade Saber Monarch? You're really, 4th grade Saber Monarch. But, why are the Sovereign King's rings pure white? Yes, my cultivation is at 4th grade Saber Monarch. But, my mental state cultivation is at the peak of Saber Monarch level. Chu Fei Ling's eyes flashed as he said, that's why the Sovereign King's rings are white. How is this possible? Yang Ruolan covered her small mouth in shock. How can it be so fast? But, what's going on with this mental state? Yang Ruolan was an emperor-level expert. So, how could she not know what this meant? A 4th grade Saber Monarch had the mental state of a Saber Monarch. This meant that there was no bottleneck on the road to becoming a Saber Monarch. One would naturally become a Saber Monarch as long as one's cultivation reached a certain level. So, how could it not be easy to increase one's martial power and cultivation? One just had to cultivate. But, the most important thing was the mental state. It was possible to seal one's cultivation for a lifetime if one couldn't make a breakthrough in the mental state. For example, if someone had a cultivation of level 3 and a cultivation of level 4, both of them would cultivate together. However, after reaching a certain level, the level 3 cultivator would only be able to consolidate his cultivation, and the excess spiritual energy he absorbed would dissipate soon after. However, the level 4 cultivator would be able to absorb spiritual energy into his body and turn it into cultivation. This was the importance of making a breakthrough in the mental state. This was also the so-called bottleneck. But, Chu Fei Ling's journey was a smooth one. I didn't believe it either. I had been stuck at the Saber Emperor grade for a long time. But, my sworn brother gave me a pill. Not only did it increase my cultivation by 5 grades, but it also helped me break through the bottleneck. Moreover, it also promoted my mental cultivation to the Saber Monarch grade. Chu Fei Ling's eyes flashed. He spoke slowly with a grateful look on his face. What kind of pill? Yang Ruolan felt that her breathing had become rapid. I don't know the name of this pill. Chu Fei Ling smiled mysteriously and said, "But, my sworn brother gave me 2 pills. I ate one of them, and my cultivation increased to this level. The other one is for you. Your angina will disappear after you eat it. Moreover, your mental state will also increase to the monarch level. As for how much your martial power and cultivation will increase, that will depend on you. There's such an elixir in the world." Young Ruolan was so shocked that she was at a loss for words. "Didn't I tell you? My sworn brother is very powerful." Chu Fei Ling smiled proudly. Chapter 500. Chu Fei Ling took out a purple jade bottle from his bosom as he spoke. He gave it to young Ruolan as if it was a treasure. "Take it. This is a token of my appreciation for you." Young Ruolan held the jade bottle in her hand, and felt a comfortable feeling all over her body. She couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, "It's really a good thing. Your sworn brother is very good to you. My sworn younger brother is indeed a great benefactor to me." Chu Fei Ling sighed with emotion and said, "My sworn brother also gave us 2 medicinal pills in addition to this. According to him, these 2 pills can bring someone back to life as long as they aren't beheaded on the spot. Moreover, he also gave us a bottle of medicine. After we take it, we'll be able to completely conceal our aura fluctuations. No one will be able to see through us." Young Ruolan was so shocked that she couldn't speak. These were things that she had never seen or heard of. "My sworn brother has given us so many things." "Well, my sworn brother also gave you a sword and me a saber." Chu Fei Ling carefully took out the sword and saber and said, "I've tested it. It can cut through iron as if it were mud. It's more than 10 times stronger than my original saber. It can be said that this is the sharpest divine weapon I've ever seen apart from the treasured swords and sabers of the big clans." He took a deep breath and said, "Even the big clans only have a few treasured swords and sabers. And, these swords are passed down from their ancestors. They have already become the sacred objects of their respective clans. So, who can see them?" Young Ruolan had already picked up the sword. She took it out and looked at it. She felt a cold light shining on it. It was like a pool of autumn water that reflected all kinds of things in the world. The weight, the length, the size, and the style were all to her liking. She couldn't help but click her tongue in amazement and said, "Your sworn brother is really a talent. It's rare for him to give me this sword, but it's to my liking. My sworn brother is a heaven-sent genius." "I don't know what he doesn't know," Chu Fei Ling said proudly. Young Ruolan said, "Your sworn brother has such deep feelings for you. Fei Ling, you mustn't let him down. Even if it's just one of these things, it's still a huge favor." "Of course," Chu Fei Ling said with certainty, "you should quickly take this medicine. According to my sworn younger brother, this medicine can only be effective for Emperor-level experts and above. It won't have any effect on anyone below the Emperor realm." Young Ruolan nodded. She gently and carefully opened the purple jade bottle. Then, she poured out a 7-colored pill from it. A burst of rich and strange fragrance pervaded the air. She didn't dare to neglect it. So, she hastily put it in her mouth. As soon as he put it in, he felt an endless amount of spiritual energy turn into pure energy and rush towards his limbs and bones. He couldn't help but let out a soft yen sound. Then, he was brought into a mysterious state by the violent medicinal effects. By the time young Ruolan woke up, it was already night time. Chu Fei Ling had been standing guard at the side, not daring to move. Young Ruolan opened her eyes, and operated her primordial energy. She felt that several bottlenecks in her body that she hadn't been able to break through had suddenly been cleared up. Her spirit was clear and transparent. Many of the meanings of the great Tao that she hadn't understood before had also been cleared up. Her entire body, from her soul to her physical body, felt incomparably relaxed. And his own cultivation had actually increased by a large margin. Awesome. Young Ruolan was somewhat dumbstruck as she checked her own cultivation. She swallowed her saliva with difficulty and said, "I'm now a 7th grade Emperor-level expert." She stretched out her hand, and condensed her primordial energy. Suddenly, 7 oval pure white circles appeared in her hand. She couldn't help but stare blankly. Then, she said, My mental state has also reached the monarch level. She stood up as if she was dreaming. Then, she pinched her arm with all her might. She said in a daze, "Is this true? Is it really true?" "It's absolutely true." Chu Filing held his beloved wife in his arms. However, he found that his wife had already shed tears of surprise. He had never seen his wife so happy since his son had gone missing. So, he couldn't help but feel gratified. Yong Ruolan leaned in her husband's arms in a daze. But, she couldn't help but shed tears. She said, my child wouldn't have gone missing if we had this kind of cultivation back then." Chu Filing heaved a deep sigh, and hugged her even tighter. "I must thank that sworn brother of yours properly." Yong Ruolan wiped her tears and said, "Filing, there are very few people nowadays who value relationships and treat treasures like dirt. We mustn't fail to live up to his kind intentions." Chu Filing nodded deeply. He said in order to ease his wife's emotions, "It's strange to say that my sworn brother is only 18 years old. He's very handsome. I feel that he's very familiar when I see him. Moreover, his face is somewhat similar to mine. You tell me, isn't this fate bestowed upon us by heaven?" He spoke in high spirits. But, he suddenly realized that Yong Ruolan's delicate body had stiffened in his arms. Then, Yong Ruolan turned around like a whirlwind. Her eyes flashed with tears and hope. She said in a trembling voice, "He's only 18 years old, and looks very similar to you, your sworn brother." Could he be? Chu Filing was startled. Could he be our son? Yong Ruolan's eyes burst with an intense ray of hope. She stared at Chu Filing's face. "It can't be." Chu Filing jumped in fright. He was so frightened by these words that he started to sweat. He wiped his sweat twice and said, "It's absolutely impossible. My sworn brother is brave and resourceful. He's domineering and awe-inspiring. He kills decisively and is full of tricks. He's a top-notch talent in the world. Our son, if he's as capable as my sworn brother, then I'll have no regrets even if I die now." He thought in his heart, "Motherfucker, if that little boy is really my son, then I'll die of shame. I'll become sworn brothers with my own son. I'm afraid this matter will become the most legendary story in the heavens. I can't say this casually. What's the name of your sworn brother?" Yong Ruolan didn't pay attention to his joke. She continued to ask. "It's very strange. His surname is also Chu, and his name is Chu Yang." Chu Filing coughed twice and said, "Chu Yang? King of Hell Chu of the lower three heavens?" Yong Ruolan took a step back. Her eyes emitted an unbelievable light. "How can it be him? Is it him? It should be. I haven't seen King of Hell Chu. But, my sworn brother has indeed come from the lower three heavens." Chu Filing nodded. "That's right." Yong Ruolan muttered. Suddenly, her face turned red. She recalled that she had just taught that King of Hell Chu a lesson. But, she hadn't expected that he was her husband's sworn brother. He was a great benefactor of the entire Chu clan. Am I being ungrateful? She couldn't help but feel ashamed as she thought of this. However, she recalled that King of Hell Chu was a frivolous and hooligan. Then, she recalled her husband's evaluation of him, brave and resourceful, awe-inspiring and awe-inspiring. He kills decisively and is full of tricks. So, she felt that it wasn't quite the same. Moreover, her husband had said, "My sworn brother's appearance is somewhat similar to mine. But, the King of Hell Chu I saw didn't resemble me at all. Could it be that there are two people?" Yong Ruolan became suspicious. "I came back late this time because I had to do something, and the target's name is Chu Yang." Yong Ruolan thought for a while. Then, she told the whole story. Chu Filing was startled. He listened carefully. Then, his expression changed as he listened. He said, "You abandoned him? My sworn brother isn't that kind of person. You must have made a mistake. Your master does things arbitrarily. He only cares about his own preferences. He doesn't care about other people's feelings. Moreover, did your junior sister ask you to help her vent her anger? She was willing to do so. What does it have to do with you? Who asked you to deal with her lover? You're simply unreasonable." Yong Ruolan's face turned red. She said, "This matter is indeed somewhat lacking in consideration. What do you mean by somewhat lacking in consideration? It's ridiculous. Chu Filing said angrily, I don't know whether you're dealing with my sworn brother or not, but how can you and I face him in the future if you're dealing with him? Yang Ruolan's face turned red. She said, but this Chu Yang is somewhat glib-tongued. Moreover, he's a king-level expert at the age of 18. But he's like a hooligan. His appearance doesn't resemble yours at all. Moreover, he doesn't have a calm aura. Perhaps they're two different people. Chu Filing wrinkled his brows and said, that's possible. He muttered to himself for a while. Then, he said, I'm still somewhat worried. I'll go and take a look after we've dealt with the Spirit Beast Tide and the 3 Stars Divine Clan. Yang Ruolan said, that's good. I'll go with you when the time comes. I'll thank him in person. And I'll personally apologize to him and ask for his forgiveness if I've wronged him that time. Chu Filing nodded. He said in his heart, how could my sworn brother be so easily plotted against by you? That's impossible. He may not be alone. His wisdom and cultivation can go unimpeded for 3 days. 3 days. Chu Yang and the others finally arrived at the northern wilderness after a long and arduous journey. The closer they got, the colder they felt. Everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air when they finally arrived at the northern wilderness. What a huge glacier and snowfield. They saw that the peaks were wrapped in jade. And it was a world of ice and snow for thousands of miles. It was majestic and boundless. Chu Yang had never been here in his previous life. So, he had thought that there would be shadows of people flying everywhere since so many people from the big clans had arrived in the 3 heavens. However, he realized that this wasn't the case when he arrived here. He couldn't see a single human figure as far as his eyes could see. He also didn't know where those people had gone. However, they were so insignificant that they could be ignored even if they were standing on the glacier. We've finally arrived. Chu Yang's black robe was fluttering in the cold wind. He slowly stepped onto the ice field. He felt the bone-chilling cold coming from the front. The sky was filled with boundless white snow. He suddenly felt a surge of heroic spirit in his heart. Chapter 501. The sword spirit in Chu Yang's mind suddenly flipped violently. His face was full of excitement, causing the entire space to vibrate as if it was dancing. Have we arrived at the northern icefield of the 3 heavens? The sword spirit asked excitedly. Yes, Chu Yang replied. Great. You're finally here. The sword spirit somersaulted excitedly in the space and said, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Chu Yang was confused. My sword spirit is sealed here. The sword spirit laughed. It's under the northern icefields. As long as you can find it, my strength will increase exponentially. The other functions of the space will also be activated. Your cultivation base will also increase greatly. The more help I can't give you, the more. He smiled happily and said, the most important thing is that the quality of the tribulation sword has finally increased by another level. I see. Chu Yang's heart was burning with excitement. The cold air spread from the soles of his feet all the way up. The tribulation sword tip in his dantian suddenly shook violently. An extremely excited emotion was clearly transmitted to Chu Yang's heart. What's going on? Chu Yang's heart was beating wildly. He felt that the sword edge and the sword blade were also vibrating intensely with the excitement of the sword tip. There are countless natural treasures growing on the northern icefield. Because it's cold here, there are very few people, so it's preserved. The sword spirit said excitedly, and after the tribulation sword swallowed so many precious materials and herbs, it's finally going to advance again, to prepare for the 4th part of the tribulation sword. And this opportunity is here, in the northern icefields. The sword spirit said with a smile, I forgot to tell you. After the tribulation sword advances this time, it will give birth to a new ability. That is, it can create elixirs to increase anyone's cultivation. And there won't be any future worries. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. He was pleasantly surprised. The sword spirit said, just like your brothers, you can promote them to the emperor level and then take the heavy elixir to raise their state of mind to the peak of the monarch level. All the previous masters of the Tribulation Sword have used this method to promote their brothers, so as to form an invincible power that can flatten the heaven. It's just that it will take a long time. I see. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. But, you have to be careful. There are several extremely terrifying auras in this northern wilderness. These auras have already left for a long time. But, their remnant auras make me feel very formidable. If by any chance we meet such people, I can't come out to help you, because they will discover my existence. That would be even more dangerous for you. The sword spirit reminded. So powerful. Chu Yang frowned. How can there be such a powerful existence in the lower three heavens? These people aren't from the lower three heavens. They have come to the northern wilderness to do something. The sword spirit comforted him. Therefore, you don't have to worry. That's because the heavens' law enforcers will take action as soon as 2 or more of these people appear. In this vast wilderness, there have been 4 such powerful auras. Then, one of them must be a law enforcer. What are the cultivation levels of these auras? Chu Yang asked. It's hard to say. The sword spirit was silent for a while. Then, he said, in this world, there are many geniuses who live in seclusion. They are extremely talented, but they do things their own way. Their temperaments are indifferent. They often have powerful cultivation levels, but no one knows their names. Every single one of these existences is a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. Once they make a move, it will be earth-shattering. Sword Spirit Wei sighed and said, for generations, the Tribulation Sword Master has been the most powerful in the heaven. In fact, this is indeed the case. But, don't forget one thing. The most powerful thing about the past Tribulation Sword Masters is the Tribulation Sword, not the Tribulation Sword Master himself. And, the most powerful thing about these existences is their own bodies. The Sword Spirit said heavily, if the Tribulation Sword Master has all the Tribulation Swords, these people won't be his opponents. But, if the Tribulation Sword Master uses another sword to fight against these people, he will definitely lose. He warned heavily, he will definitely die. These people respect the Tribulation Sword Master. They don't come out to cause trouble. But, they don't respect the current Tribulation Sword Master, but the extraordinary person who created the heaven. The Sword Spirit said, before you get the Tribulation Sword completely, or before you get the 7th fragment of the Tribulation Sword, you don't have the ability to protect yourself. Once you meet such existences, you must be careful. You must be careful. So, there are such people in this world, Chu Yang murmured. Suddenly, he felt that the world in front of him had become more colorful. Such people are rare, but they definitely exist. The Sword Spirit said, for example, Chen Feng and Liu Yun, the 2 supreme martial artists. Although they have been alive for 10,000 years, they may not be dead. Supreme martial artists can't live as long as the world, but they can delay aging indefinitely. If that's the case, those people who once followed the Tribulation Sword Master to conquer the world and the past Tribulation Sword Masters should be supreme martial artists themselves, right? They may not be dead. Chu Yang asked, puzzled. The Sword Spirit suddenly became silent. He didn't answer this question at all. He fell into an absolute silence. Chu Yang could even feel his thoughts. I won't say it. Even if you beat me to death. Chu Yang helplessly shook his head, and smiled. After sorting out his thoughts, he quickly threw these strange stories to the side and thought, how can such a thing be so easy to encounter? The Sword Spirit's remnant soul had returned to its place, and the Tribulation Sword had been upgraded. This had greatly increased the strength of his brothers. Chu Yang was already very satisfied with this. His brothers saw that Chu Yang was so happy. So, they all asked for the reason. Chu Yang laughed out loud. He was in a very happy mood. There are friends in the northern wilderness. There are also enemies. There are murderous and hot-blooded people. There are also brothers. There are feelings. Chu Yang laughed boldly. Brothers, you must know that this northern wilderness is going to be the biggest transformation between us. The biggest transformation? What transformation? The brothers were somewhat puzzled. The northern wilderness is full of murderous vibes. The heavenly imperial court is built from here. Chu Yang recalled the sword spirit's reminder, and the excitement of the tribulation sword in his dantian. He looked up to the sky, and shouted, "Countless opportunities are also here. It will be the time for a fish to transform into a dragon when we leave this place. This is an opportunity given by the heavens. How can we miss it?" He laughed out loud. Then, he looked up to the sky, and shouted. His shout was so fierce that it pierced through the clouds. He then said fiercely, "The world-defying heavens. From today onwards." Shuo Du Xing's eyes emitted a sharp cold light. He muttered, "The world-defying heavens, from today onwards." I suddenly feel a lofty feeling in my chest. A long shout was heard from afar. A clear and bright voice laughed, "The world-defying heavens is indeed very bold. And, it's also very boastful." A blue silhouette came from the sky. He flashed in the sky like a meteor, and landed in front of Chu Yang. He then said with a smile, "King of Hell Chu, I have been waiting for you for a long time." It was Duke Yu. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. He said, "My debtor has finally arrived." "Duke Yu, where are your white crystals?" Duke Yu exposed an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "We haven't seen each other for a long time. And, you want to pay the debt as soon as we meet. Is my credit so bad? What kind of credit do you have if you don't pay the debt?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, "Hurry up. I need it urgently." He couldn't help but be anxious. The little girl had been very quiet these days, especially when she saw Chu Yang and the others practicing martial arts. Her eyes became even more bitter. Chu Yang was very distressed. The most direct way to untie the little girl's heart was to let the tribulation sword work with the heavy pill to cure her 3-yin meridian. Then, Mo Qingwu could continue to practice. She wouldn't feel pain in her chest every time she practiced like she was now, and, the key to the improvement of the tribulation sword was the white crystal ore in Duke Yu's hand. Duke Yu snorted and said, "Fine. Come, I will first pay the debt to you." Then, he jumped up and said, "Follow me." Chu Yang carried Mo Qingwu on his back and followed closely behind. Shuo Du Xing and the others also jumped up. They were like a long line of dragons whistling in the wind and snow. They ran on the slippery ice field. In an instant, they had covered dozens of miles. The wind and snow were getting heavier and heavier. Suddenly, a strange cry came from afar in front of the wind and snow. "A spirit beast of the same level has appeared." Duke Yu, who was running like lightning, suddenly stopped. He stood on the slippery ice field like a nail. Without any hesitation, he changed his direction and said, "Let's go and take a look." His green robe fluttered and he went more than 500 feet away. Chu Yang didn't have time to stop. He had already rushed more than 1,000 feet on the slippery ice field. Then, he turned around and followed him while cursing. "This bastard, why did he change his direction halfway? Is he trying to renege on his debt?" Everyone flew in that direction. Except for Chu Yang, everyone was very interested in the mysterious spirit beast of the same level. After all, it was the main goal of everyone's trip. Outside the ice plains, several hundred li away, two figures were walking over. Although the two of them had walked together, their movements, expressions, demeanor, and appearance, no matter which aspect it was, they were completely different. Looking at these two people, anyone would have a feeling, these are people from two different worlds. Absolutely so. This kind of feeling. One was walking leisurely, and the other was running fast. One looked calm and elegant, and the other was anxious and impatient. One's green robe fluttered as if he was taking a stroll. The other's black robe fluttered as if he was fighting for his life. The other's facial features were regular, and he looked like a gentleman. His beard fluttered in the wind. He looked like a celestial being. His expression was indifferent, as if he didn't care about anything in this world. But the other's appearance was, damn, this appearance is really indescribable. It's absolutely indescribable. There are many ugly people, but such an ugly person has never been seen in the history of the heavens. This person's appearance is definitely unprecedented in the history of the heavens. Chapter 502. These two were Meng Chao Ran and Tan Tan. Meng Chao Ran helplessly frowned and said, Tan Tan, I have something to discuss with you. Tan Tan was shocked and said, please say it, master. Meng Chao Ran's face was full of black lines. He said weakly, you don't have to be so shocked when we are together, right? You are beautiful. I have raised you for 18 years. Don't you know? Why are you so shocked in front of me? Tan Tan acted as if he didn't hear anything. He skillfully tidied his hair with his hands. He raised his head and shook his hair. Then, he skillfully took out a mirror from his bosom. He suddenly shouted in shock, Master, Master, look. I haven't looked in the mirror for a few days. I have become more handsome. Meng Chao Ran's face was full of black lines. Just pretend I didn't say anything. He was extremely depressed as he walked forward. Tan Tan carefully looked at himself in the room. Then, he smugly said, Motherfucker, you've become even more handsome. If Xie Danfeng were to see this, she would definitely be charmed to death. In his bosom, a golden fish tail suddenly stretched out powerlessly and shook twice. Meng Chao Ran sighed, even the divine Kai gathering fish is disgusted. Tan Tan tidied up his appearance in front of the mirror. Then, he crooked his mouth and squinted his eyes to make a few expressions. Then, he looked very shocked in front of the mirror. Then, he said, Master, do you think Chu Yang will go this time? He will definitely go. Meng Chao Ran said with certainty. I heard that the bride-snatching battle was very lively. Unfortunately, I didn't make it. Tan Tan looked at Meng Chao Ran with hidden bitterness. It is all your fault, master. I had to break through the bottleneck at that time. Meng Chao Ran's face was like iron. He turned a deaf ear and sped up. He left this shameless disciple far behind. Too shameless. You reached the bottleneck and the opportunity to break through. That's why you were delayed. Now, you want to blame me for this. Do you know how difficult it is for a martial artist to encounter such an opportunity? You were a bastard just now. If Meng Chao Ran's self-cultivation was not so good, he would have grabbed this little guy and punched him. Senior brother, if you see me, you definitely won't recognize me. Tan Tan was so happy that he couldn't help but take out a mirror to look at himself. Then, he said in self-pity, Chu Yang looks so shabby. He's never seen such a handsome guy like me. Meng Chao Ran's silhouette flashed. He couldn't bear it any longer, and hurriedly rushed back. He grabbed Tan Tan's lapel, and fiercely shouted, Shut up. If you dare to say another word, then scram back to your training. You are not allowed to come out again. Meng Chao Ran's elegant face was somewhat distorted. That was too fucking unbearable. Ever since this guy had discovered that shock could improve one's appearance, he had been living in an abyss of suffering and suffering. Being with this disciple every day, Meng Chao Ran felt his temples throbbing every day. I'm really worried that the next moment, I'll get a nervous headache and, Tan Tan was flabbergasted as he looked at his master. He wanted to ask, but he didn't dare to. However, his eyes were full of shock. This time, he didn't need to be shocked. He could be shocked. Meng Chao Ran felt powerless as he saw Tan Tan's expression. He slowly loosened his grip, and let go of Tan Tan. He said, Your master couldn't control his temper, but you, can you not be so narcissistic? Master, you've wronged me too much. Tan Tan pursed his lips in grievance. He felt that he had suffered a great injustice. He even felt like crying. I'm not narcissistic at all. I'm so handsome. How can I be narcissistic? Meng Chao Ran's temples bulged. He heaved a deep sigh, and weakly loosened his grip. Then, he said in a grief-stricken tone, Let's go. Okay. The master and disciple had arrived at Mount Dingjun by the time that the place was empty. They had arrived 3 days late. Then, they had heard that a spirit beast had appeared in the northern wilderness. So, Meng Chao Ran had brought Tan Tan here to gain experience. Gaining experience was one thing. But, Meng Chao Ran's main purpose was to hand Tan Tan over to Anyang. Then, he would go to a faraway place, and immerse himself in cultivation. Meng Chao Ran felt that he could live a few more years even if he couldn't see this guy for a lifetime. I've had enough. People who hadn't stayed with Tan Tan for a long time wouldn't know what kind of torture this was. For example, if you saw Sister Feng flirting with infinite narcissism in front of you every day. I think a man would go crazy in a very short time. It was a miracle that Meng Ran had persisted for so long. Both of them had been gaining experience in the Kanglan battlefront for more than a year. Tan's divine Kai-gathering fish had grown to more than 2 feet long. It usually nestled in Tan's bosom obediently. It didn't need to stay in the water anymore. It could gather spirit energy on its own. So, it didn't need to worry about food and drink. The spirit energy of the world had been absorbed by the divine Kai-gathering fish. So, it didn't need to be converted into internal spirit energy. Moreover, it was enough for both of them to practice martial arts at the same time. The strength of both the master and disciple had increased at lightning speed during this period of time. Meng Ran hadn't thought that he would be able to continuously break through bottlenecks by basking in the glory of his disciple. Tan had broken through to the revered martial artist level in a short period of time. And Meng Ran had also broken through to the 8th grade of king level. Meng Ran had discovered a very strange thing along with the practice of martial arts. The divine Kai-gathering fish had been absorbing more and more spirit energy as it grew. And its progress had been getting faster and faster. In particular, the higher the level of cultivation had been, the faster the breakthrough had been. This phenomenon was really mysterious to a certain extent. In particular, the water that the divine Kai-gathering fish needed for its daily life was completely condensed from spirit energy. Meng Ran and Tan drank a mouthful of it every day. And their cultivation had been advancing at a tremendous pace. Meng Ran had also discovered a problem. That was, Tan could drink the spirit energy water condensed by the divine Kai-gathering fish any way he wanted. Even if he drank 1,000 mouthfuls, this guy would quickly go and make more. But the divine Kai-gathering fish would fiercely glare at Meng Ran every time he drank a mouthful of it. It was as if it had a spiritual wisdom. Moreover, this broken fish would only gather a large amount of spirit energy when it was beside Tan during its daily practice. And its belly would turn upside down if Tan wasn't around. In fact, it would simply defecate. Meng Ran was puzzled by this discovery. Tan had abused this strange fish a lot. He had thrown it into the cesspool on the first day he had obtained it. And he had become even more severe after that. He would often pull it out and study it whenever he had nothing to do. He wanted to know why this fish was able to gather the spirit energy of the world. Tan had been very diligent in his research. He had once put the divine Kai-gathering fish in water. Then, he had used a cloth to wrap its mouth, nose, and eyes. It had almost suffocated to death. Later, he had fished it out of the water and exposed it to the sun. And it had almost lost its skin. It would have died if it hadn't learned how to transform spirit energy into water. Then, Tan had removed several scales from the divine Kai-gathering fish's body, and had crushed them for research. The most outrageous thing was that he had used a small knife to cut a piece of the fish's flesh. And this strange fish had almost lost its life. It could be said that this divine Kai-gathering fish wouldn't have been able to live for more than 3 days without Meng Ran's help. Meng Ran had constantly stopped Tan's atrocities. And he had saved the divine Kai-gathering fish's life at least 30 or 50 times. However, this strange fish didn't care about Meng Ran at all. Instead, it seemed to be very close to Tan. Meng Ran was very knowledgeable. But he sometimes felt depressed. What's so good about this little fish? Why is this fish so dead set on him? Meng Ran sighed as he thought of this. He pointed to the front and said, "We will enter the northern wilderness in another 500 miles. Chuyang should have arrived there by now." Tan was overjoyed. He jumped up and said in a shocked manner, "That's great. That's great. I must give that unprepossessing Chuyang a big surprise this time. A beautiful man like me who can cause the downfall of a nation will appear in front of him." Waha! Meng Ran suddenly turned his head. His complexion turned ashen. He was speechless as he ran away with tears in his eyes. "I can't take it anymore. I really can't take it anymore. Oh God." Chuyang and the others were approaching. They could only hear the strange cry getting closer and closer. It seemed that this spirit beast was being besieged. However, the cry of this spirit beast was loud and clear. But it didn't sound like it was in pain. It seemed that this guy didn't care about the people who were besieging it. They passed through an almost transparent ice wall. And they saw the scene in front of them. Everyone was shocked. They saw a monster that was hundreds of feet tall. It was brandishing its 2 huge claws. Its body was like a small mountain. But it was as agile as a spirit monkey. It was jumping and leaping. Its movements were very agile. Many broken corpses were lying in the vicinity. Many people were seriously injured. They were moaning as they rested. There were still hundreds of people present. And they were fiercely besieging this monster. However, their attacks were clearly not enough to threaten the 1-grade spirit beast. What kind of monster is this? Chu Yang asked in his mind. The sword spirit disdainfully glanced at it and said, "It's just an ancient ice bear. How can such a stupid thing be called a spirit beast?" "Ancient ice bear?" Chu Yang asked. "Yes." The sword spirit replied, "The ancient ice bear is also called the giant bear of the wilderness. It's an 8th-grade spirit beast. It's usually 30 feet tall, and weighs more than 3,000 kilograms. But its body will suddenly expand by 10 times in an emergency. And its strength will also increase by 10 times. Its most effective means of attack is its body. It can spit out icicles from its mouth. These icicles can be used as lethal weapons. But it will consume a lot of its cultivation every time it spits them out." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.